Hola. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Danny.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Diane. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. All good.
Okay, yeah.
So my name's Diane. I live in Edson with Des. I grew up with ADHD. So for me, I've lived most of my growing up years not being diagnosed with ADHD, but having it. So for me, it was extremely difficult to get anything done in school. I was always the one whose head was just in space, or I was the one who was super busy and was always into something and always getting into trouble because of that. And it actually stayed that way until I learned how to read. Once I learned how to read, then I fell in love with books. Books was my life. So I actually, with my ADHD, I actually hyper focused on the books themselves. So the books became my reality. But I was, as I said, forever getting into trouble for things that all the other kids could focus on and do. And my brain didn't work the same way as all the other kids. And a lot of times I would actually focus on things that no one else thought was important, but to me, they were super important to the point where I couldn't even understand or be able to communicate with people in a way that they would get. In grade 10, I was finally diagnosed with ADHD. And with that official diagnosis with the doctor, and also proper medication with the doctor, I was able to finally focus in on school, and I was actually able to, the first time in my life, I was actually good at school, which was a very strange experience. There was a lot of subjects like math that I had no hope of ever passing before the diagnosis. That being said, grade 10, grade 11, I passed no problem. Some classes were still a struggle like math, and still managed to pass them with low 60s, 60%. And then there was other ones that I became really, really good at, such as social studies and language arts. And those ones I could pass with like high 90%, high A's. After high school, I had many jobs. I worked at Tim Hortons at a coffee shop. I became a landscaper designing lawns and lawn care. And I worked as an assistant for an optometrist. But I would get bored easily if I wasn't passionate about it. And because of this, most of my jobs only lasted 2 to 3 years. It wasn't until that I found the things that I was passionate about and that were really important to me that I was able to keep a steady job. And for me, personally, people are what makes me tick, makes me happy. And in 2010, because of that, I actually decided to join the Canadian military. And my hope with that was the fact that I could help a lot of people, because in Canada, our mission is always peacekeeping, to help people. So I actually loved being in the Army and would probably still be in the Army today if I hadn't met my husband. In 2015, I actually retired from the military to get married. And for the next 5 years here, I worked in schools as an EA, working with special needs, working with kids who were like me, who had ADHD, who have autism. And because my brain with ADHD works a little bit differently, I was able to connect and help these kids in a way that people who wouldn't necessarily be able to connect with those kids in the same way. I was able to relate to them and show them that what the world sees as a disability is just a different way to see and relate to the world. That my ADHD was actually a strength when I applied it to the right job. I've actually been married for about 8 years now. I've also since taken a break from working. As 8 months ago, I was actually blessed with a beautiful daughter. So I'm married. Yep. Sorry.
That's nice. That's great.
Yeah, so I'm married, have a daughter, I drive, I was in the military, and I also have 3 siblings. All of them also have ADHD. My one sister is married and has 5 kids and loves being a stay-at-home mom. My brother actually works as a school bus driver, and him and his wife are expecting twins in the next few months here. And then my youngest sister is very passionate about serving others and loves people, and she has found extreme fulfillment in waitressing at restaurants. Yeah, I'm not sure. That's kind of my story. Not sure if that helps at all.
Yes, it does. So Diane ማለት ቅድሚ ሕጂ ADHD ዝነበረ ሓፍትና እያ I think መብዛሕትኩም ሰሚዕኩም ኣለኹም. Were you like at grade 10 when you start taking medication or?
Yes, I was grade 10 when I started taking medication.
grade 10 ምስ ኮነት እያ ሕክምና መድሃኒት ክትወስድ ጀሚራ ግን እቲ መድሃኒት ምውሳድ ምስ ጀመረት እቲ ኩሉ ነገር ከምዚ ጽቡቕ ከደላ ከምዚ ነበረ ኣብ ትምህርቲ I think you said you like reading, right?
Oh, I love, yeah, I became passionate about reading, and I actually still read a book a day.
So መጽሓፍ ምንባብ ትፈቱ ነራ ሕጂ ኩሉ ነገር ወዲኣ ብሕጂ ኸማን like ሓዳር ጌራ ጓል 8 ዓመት ጓል ኣላታ ንሶ ትናታ ታሪካ ሼር ትገብር ዝነበረት እዚ ንምንታይ ሼር ክትገብር ደሊናያ ADHD ዘለዎም ቆሎት ዘለውና ሰባት ምእንቲ ተስፋ ከይንቆርጽ ጽባሕ ንጎ ኣብ ጽቡቕ ቦታ ክበጽሑ ከም ዝኾኑ ተስፋ ጌርና እቲ ዝግባእ ነገር ንክንገብረሎም ተስፋ ንክንርኢና ኢና ኣብዚ ዓዲምናያ. Frey, if you can go ahead, please.
That's a very interesting story. Actually, I become very familiar with this ADHD when I read. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the book called The Underdog, the David and Goliath. Are you familiar with the book?
Yes.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I read his book, Malcolm Gladwell, and I become very familiar. And in fact, I start even questioning whether like what? But anyway, that book really opened my eyes because I'm a businesswoman myself, and it really helped me and to see, because you see back when we don't we have a different coping mechanism, right? And it's a taboo taking medication, and even myself I struggle advising or even see if other people or other family should take medication or not. And I still struggle with that, because with my background, where I come from, and because uh, where we are at right now, I don't have enough knowledge. But I would definitely ask on behalf of those families that are their kids are diagnosed. And I've read a little bit, I've done a little bit of research, and even the age where they should start with medication or should not start, it's another controversial. And so on behalf of the family, and as in we call it Habesha, right? So we are so scared on taking medication. I still do, like, meaning not for myself, but I still question it.
Mhm.
And what do you have to say about that? Because especially, I mean, I understand you're not from Eritrea or even in Ethiopia, but tell me about the medication thing, because I still struggle, because I would prefer to go natural. Have you done any other natural way instead of really taking medication, right?
Yes,
So
actually.
so can you help us see if there is any other way of really treating it rather medication? If so, what are those? Or is that the only way? Just help me, because I seriously don't know for this answer.
Actually, I have not taken medication probably for the last 15 years. As an adult, I've actually, when I was a kid, I actually found that I needed the medication to help me be able to focus and to actually regulate how my mind worked, just because of how school is. School is very, this is the way things need to be. Whereas real life, when you become an adult, things change. For me, I found with regular exercising every day, it helps manage it. And even with students that I've worked with ADHD, a lot of times when they started acting up, I found even taking them to the gym for a 5-minute run, or just getting them active and getting them their brain working in a different way, is very helpful. Some can do it without medication and just by being super active. Others can't. Both perfectly reasonable. The other thing that I've also found that really helps me personally is it's actually an extract made out of mushrooms called lion's mane, and it's a natural, helps with the brain just to focus, and it has other health benefits too. It's an anti-inflammatory, and it helps the immune system, so it's kind of a few different things all in one. But those are the things that I've found really helps me personally. I'm not a medical professional, so I can't say from a medical standpoint, but that's what I've found.
Sorry, I don't want to take over. There are 36 people in this meeting, and they should be able to come and ask. أحوات أنا زحتو زحات هذا اللخو actually ካብ ብዙሓት ቤተሰብ ኣነ እውን ካብ ተሓንቲ ሽግር ዘለኒ ምክንያቱ ብዙሓት ቤተሰብ በዚ ጉዳይ ኣብ ደቆም ፍርሒ ናይ ሜዲኬሽን ወላ ኣነ ንባዕለይ ኣፍልጦም ብዙሕ ወላ ሪሰርች ተገበርኩ ክዓግበሉ ስለዘይ ከኣልኩ እቶም ዝወስዱን ዘይወስዱን ድማ ሳዕቤኑ ይሓትት። ግን ሕጂ ተማሃሪት እየ ዘለኹ ብዚ ጉዳይ ዝና ብኸመይ ድሓታ ዘለኹና ሕቶ ተሊኩም ፕሊስ ዊጣብሉ እንድሕር ናይ ቋንቋ ፀገም ተሊ ፀገም የለን ኣነ ትራንስሌትን ክገብር ይኽእል እየ ካልኦት ኣሕዋትን ኣለዉ ግን ሕተትዋ ሕቶ በዚ ጉዳይ ዘለኩም ግን ንዓይ ናተይ ሕቶ መሊሳላ. So I'm just telling them what I think, but I have one more question for you. So did you voluntarily stop your medication and then learn to cope, create a coping mechanism for yourself without medication? Because when I read, and I've been reading even for this meeting, because I still in back home I used to be called Wa'iti, meaning I probably had it, I don't know. But I was very, very active, and I used to do so many things. And so I've never had to, I was always focused, right? But I had to do a lot of things at the same time. So I don't know, maybe it was a coping mechanism because I was swimming, going to school, doing this and that, right? So can this thing be handled without medication? Should medication interfere? All of that, right? So I'm asking family members to come up and ask questions because you have already answered mine. But I am not expert. I'm still a learner, and it's interesting because that book really had an amazing explanation about that. Because إذا متحف نحر عم بكتخونكو بمكلم Gladwell the underdog يتفل David and Goliath يتفل بزعبا زيهم ADHD ዘለዎም ቆልዑት ወይ ድማ ነጋዶ ቆልዑት ነይሮም ድሓር ዓብዮም ዓበይቲ ሰባት ዝኾኑ ብዛዕባኦም ኣንደርዶግ ዝበሃሉ ሰባት ዓበይቲ ዝበፂሖም እቲ ናቶም ድኽመት ስኒ ንጥቕሚ ቀይሮሞ ማለት because ናይ እሱ እቲ ናይቲ ፎከስ ናይ ምግባር ወይ ድማ ነገራት ቀልጢፍካ زي مقبار انتي تماهيرهم نسب مهاب صراحة delegate بلوم زعدي مهاب تماهيرهم عبيتي سبات عبيت نقادو عبيتي corporate يوم حدرو زابت عادي very interesting in دحر أنبت تخونكم قل اسويك دحا تانيرا but anyway I will stop and thank you so much I will leave this mic for the others please حطوا ولا أنت شي قلت لي I will definitely help to translate.
Sorry, could you please wrap up and explain one more in Tigrinya about Diane's story? If you can explain probably the language barriers.
من أنا؟
Yeah, if you can wrap up a little explanation. Yeah, قاتم مدحانيت مساعد كم نفلتو مدحانيت مساعد تعمل نفرحينا مو كابتي ناتا story زكونا قرشيرت. If you can do that, that will be perfect. Yeah, translate نايبلو.
سانتا يا بنيشتي كلا diagnose فينا دحر بحكم مهن مدهاني توصل نيرا مدهاني مساعد متجمرت فوكس كتقبر بفلا متحف من باب فور حديرة متحف من باب جميرة بدحريون سرحت مسعبيت وما تسقلش قر نيروا بتخالقن صبو نتبتات نيروا قل أبس سوساتاتون متراف قديفاتوس أم محلاف كلو ولا بسوساتا أم مات مالتيو بدحريو حترى بيلي نقر بدحريو دما تي متحف من باب راديوا صراحة جميلة أبتي نسا زي فوتو ويدما ناتا أبتي نسا فوتو صراحة سلزينة برا أبتل تسلست عملت بصراحة أنحنينا بدحريو قل إذن سوشال ورك صراحة بتعمل فقر حديروا أو تبو كتسرح جميلة لا بعد حداريا عد حنت قواليا شو مونت عمتي حجي قنا بساعات بايزوي مدهاني أي توصلني أنا تحطو يسينيرو مسعابيت قل تين دعابها مسكر كاسي كتب مهار تخليها كم يجير كاديل تقبر قال لهم بزي مدهاني زي كارولو قال لهم كان مدهاني جميلة بعدهم كوب مساحة جي تحطو ينسينيرو مجمرة قل مدهاني توصلني را بدحريقو دما طوا بيلاتون 15 عامت حكي داني 15 عامت مدهانيت وسيدة يكفلتني حجي انتاي توسد مزناي مشروم قلز بحالالو I don't know ساد بلاتو قل هرباليو ريلاكس نخقبر لا توسد بلاس كوبي ميكانيزم اللو ساعة حطو يناتيك عند زنبرسي بزي مدهانيسي زنقرزي فتح اللي قل أبني اشتاك اللخا أنا حجاب زي أفلوت أي بالليل زي كم أخذكم إذا حتى تلقوا خم مهر السوقهم إلى هني جنب نشتغلنا مدهاني توصل نوريرا قدام يور دايلات نشتغل كله مدهاني توصل مو دحراي كميم I think دحراي تي مستمهروا كأنكو تخلو خونو زخلو لو زي كلو لو زي أنا بعد ما ياخون كل سوا قل بحفشو نساء زي أتبل دلا نسخاتكم دماسكي وتيهم حتاتو ولا حنتي بتقريني حتاتو دحر نيقاق شو قلت لي عنون translate كجبري
I do have one question for you, Diane. we do have like families like struggling to give medication to their kids, right? Like, would you like strongly suggest the families to give the medication to their kids? That's what like ሕቶ ሓቲተያ ዘለኹ እንታይ እዩ ከም ቤተሰብ ሲ ንደቅና መድሓኒት መሃብ ንፈርሕ ሰባት ኣለና እሞ ካብቲ ናታ ተሞክሮ መድሓኒት ንክወስዱስ ብማዕርክ እንደይ ሶሪ ናይ ትግርኛ ፀገም ስለ ዘለኒ ላይክ ማዕርክ እንደይ ብኮንፊደንስ ብመድሓኒት እንድሕር ወሲዶም ፅቡቅ እያ ክትብለና እያ ሶሪ go ahead Diane sorry
Oh, all good. I would say that if a doctor has diagnosed, then I would highly recommend that you try the medication. For some kids, the medication works. For some adults, the medication works. For others, it doesn't. So every case is different. My brother-in-law had ADHD, and his mother found just taking him off the sugars and off dairy helps. For my other friend, taking them off of all gluten and wheat as well as sugar works. So I would say definitely try what the doctor recommends first and work with your doctor to see what will and won't work. You're still muted, Danny.
Thanks Diane
Yeah.
if Freda can explain please
yeah እንታይ ትብል ዘላ ብሓፂሩ እንታይ ትብል ዘላ ሲ ብጣዕሚ ኣጥቢቓ ትብል ፈትንዎ ዶክተር በቲ ዶክተር ዝብለኩም መምርሒ ብኡ ኺዱ መድሃኒት ክትፍትንዎ እንድሕር ክኢልኩም ፈትንዎ ብድሕሪኡ ድማ እዚ ግሉቲን ፍሪ ከም በዓል እንጀራ ማለት እዩ እዚ ካብዚ ስርናይ ወዲ ስርናይ ዝሕገዝ ብሽዝ ናይ ብኣባንታት ኣሎ ግሉቲን ፍሪ ነፍሱ ዝኸኣለ ትምህርቲ የድልየና ይቲን ኩላህና ከምኡታት ክትፍትኑ ትኽእል ኢኹም ግን ምስ ዶክተርኩም እዚ ግድን ፈትኑ እቲ መድሃኒት እውን ፈትኑ እያ ትብል ዘላ ኬቨን okay Kevin and Tablalo, as a healthy advocate, I say it is highly recommended that people take their medication as prescribed. If you notice any side effect, don't withdraw without consulting any physician.
100%.
So, yeah, that's what she's saying. Okay, so that's what he's saying. So, untayu medhanit wusod watatawahilkum
sorry Frida among sorry Kevin is Kamala, she's she and just wanna make sure that Gwalan said yeah, so
yeah sure
Kevin?
Yeah.
Yes.
Kevin probably Camilla, so I know her, so that's why I mean
all right, sorry about that. All right, sorry.
thank you, but thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay. So yeah, so እንታይ ትብል ዘላ ሲ ናይ ግድን ክትወስድዎ ኣለኩም ምክንያቱ ወላ ከማን ከተቋርፆ እንድሕር ኮንኩም ምስ ወላ እንድሕር ወላ ኣለርጂ ዲገይሩልኩም ገለ ምስ ዶክተርኩም ተዘራሪብኩም ክኾን ክኽእል ኣለዎ ብጣዕሚ ኢምፖርታንት ትብል ኣላ በዓልቲ ናይ በዚ ጉዳይ እዚ በዓልቲ ሞያ
okay
go ahead
ካልእ ሕቶ እንድሕር ዘይብልኩም ክሪስቲና መፅኣ ኣላ ትካም ናይ FSCD ኢንፎርሜሽን ክትህበና እያ ሕቶ እንድሕር ዘይብልኩም ናብኣ ክንሓልፍ ኢና yeah thanks Diane, we appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, if you have any questions, we'll reach out anytime and okay, thanks.
Thank you so
Danny,
much, Diane.
بخصائص صحيح كله مثلا بتكست please عم بدلع
Okay. Okay, I think there's a question from BNM. Hi Diane, thanks for coming and sharing your experience about ADHD. As a social worker that benefits or service does have kids with ADHD or autism from, I think is in Diane Ikonen. Yeah, but that's for the next speaker. Thanks, Dan. كابز كاتسيناها كاب FSCD بكريستينا تبال حفتلاتنا نسا information كتبنا بزاوة FSCD sorry. Frey, if you can invite Christina to the floor, please.
لا حرة قدميو جن حبرتسبنا بزربعان حدا سوات هلو زيا متمت زلا أطبيق أخذ زارب أنا بس قداي زي volunteer سرد صراحة كل بزارب بدعمي كنخطرخو ما شجرتيو بزيكا بإيميل تزي كوينو كسب سوشيال نبعلهم أساين ديرو ملكا خبد بلي زي نابزمت ياخد مدلسلنا بتعم عدلن ياساتينا زي دمان تايو حق ندحر دقوهم وي سايناي أوتيزم زلهم وي دما حجي دياغنوس ديروم نابي نبل كتبن دحركم كنبل دحر كوينا تتقميتاتات بزح تقمي كاب منجست عبرتا كنرخبو نخلين دينا استحج بزح كتقلصلنا اندحر قالي صادما انا احنا بزلنا بزي بفولنتير دينا وي دما دقن بزي زحلفا زلوا اندحر قرب وصي الى وي دما اندحر دينا صرف نحنا ون كنحتتينا مهنياتو زيا بطعمي اقداسيتيا مهنياتو تي تقمتات كنرخبو زغبانا وي دما انا انكون تزيكونكوتن ابزي ولد زلخم كترخبو زغباكم أي ترخبون عليهم بالتعامل بجه سأن فلتأت مالك فلذي زيات متزلا بتعامل أقداسي تيا نت أخنكم حتاتو مهنياتو نزيان نخطركب بتعامل قليل أيقونة دساويت بتعامل thank you
فريتا حفتي كلمة مجماركم تمدم مالتيو ميس كريستينا hello Miss Christina
Hello.
Hi Miss Christina. I'm gonna explain for my community, okay? Just give me 5 minutes or something, 2 minutes. Hi, Freta. Freta, لغي؟
الله sorry.
Freta حفتي نسا أنا عميت قالي أبزي ناي كافتن ناي أوتي ناي speech. سالسيتهم كوينا أتسرح. كل نجارات فلتو مالتيو. እንደገና ድማኒ ንናአሚት ጓለይ ድማ ኣብዚ ገዛ ንሰለስተ ዓመት ሰዓትሪት ጌራታ እንዳመፀ ኣብ ሰሙን ክልተ ግዜ እንደገና ረስፓይት ሒዛታት ወፅያ ካለ ኣውሕቶ እንተለኪ ከመይ ጌርካ ተኣሽሙ ትገብሮም ኩሉ ናፅኹም ከተትያ ጊዜኹም ኢሎም ማዓንቲ
ከሓታ ኣነ ከም ዝድበልኩኺ ብዙሓት ቤተሰብ ኣብዙን ክመፁን ዘይከኣሉ ብሰንኪቲ ናህና ስቲግማ ናይ ሕብረተሰብና نعاي بوشتي أكند أنا سكندي بتسب وكيلي متى لهم
حرش
نا كحتى تيجن أزي أزل لهم أي تحفروا زخون حتاتو مهنياتو متاتنا خقود لنا يقولون tax payers يخو تخافلوا لهم سعن تي فلتت ويدما حفرت تدليتنا كستيكون يقولون سلازي تمسا explain تقبر لهم مهنياتو تي تقمتات كركب زقبو نزوم بيتسب زيهم بالتعمي أبزح بزح حاجة زد اليومي إن إنسان ده زيتها ديبلي ده حرقالي تعطبو تزيكونها نحنا ونقابل زناينا كنحط زين أكل نزوم بيت سوكوي
يا توسخي دماني إذا نحنا بزلنا كتمان أب إدمنتون في اللي كلها في اللي علنا أقل جاري مور بنفيت لكم نسدما دحري أسيعبا سامري جوين قبر بلا سامري خاف تسعوا لكم يا سامري مساكم من داو لقنا توصل لكم يا
حرة أنا أبزق خمس بالكو خبو فولنتير
يا
لازمكم تيب تمهاريتي ديبلي بزحون زي فلتو إيراساس لازلو نت أخوينا خم تمهاري كابت فلتو أرما كحتتي بليس بيتسابات زلهم نت أخوكم حساتو هنياتو تتقمتات كبود ليبلون كحلف كأيبلون
Okay.
Go ahead Sam right سخي introduce قبريا
That's it, right?
Yes, Danny.
Okay, invite Gabariana Christina.
Hi, Miss Christina. Hi
Hello.
again. Can you explain? Can you tell them your name and then everything for my community, this Eritrean community, and then tell them that's Miss Christina, second Naomi mom.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Desawet, for inviting me tonight. My name is Christina Gaucher. Lots of my little friends call me Miss G. I work at the Etson Leap Center, and I also chair the Etson Leap Society. My main role at the Leap Center is program facilitator. So we offer programs for children usually 3 to 5 for early intervention programs. So typically children who have half funding, so program unit funding, and they would come and do some groups with us, programs with us that is based around some of the children's goals. So if they are having communication delays, we see lots of children with different diagnoses come to our building. So that's kind of what my main role is. And then I'm also connected with FSCD, so families with children with special needs, as a BDA, so a behavioral development assistant. And so I work closely with our speech language pathologists and our occupational therapists that we have at the LEAP Center, providing in-home support for families, as well as community-based programming support. So that could be going to the doctors, going for blood work, eye appointments, dental appointments, those kinds of things. So kind of do a whole bunch of things with my role. So yeah, and Desiree asked to come, for me to come and speak a little bit about that. And if you guys had some questions about FSCD, how to access, the biggest thing is giving families the tools to advocate for their children on what services that they might need. Again, FSCD is an amazing program that helps families on a needs to need basis. So if your family has struggles with feeding and eating and those kinds of things, your FSCD can support you that way. If you need respite outside of your home or even in your home, FSCD supports that. They also can support specialized services being put into your home, such as OT and speech, those kinds of things. And again, it's just about how to advocate for those kinds of things. So I think maybe there might have been some questions about that. Some of you might have had, so I'm excited to be here and to hear kind of some of the things that are happening in your guys' area and how programs and that kind of stuff works for your family.
Frey, if you can go ahead and ask questions, please.
Okay, hi. So I'm just gonna basically ask, let's say I have no idea, just the doctor told me, I'm just giving you because okay, my name is Freewet and call me Freta. So I do have a son, but my son is a neurotypical, so, but I also have plenty friends and family members that comes to me that I help with, and I'm very much strong advocate for those kids. And the reason why is sometimes lack of knowledge, lack of awareness, and we have left back home, and we're so focused on making meet ends, right? Rather really not understanding the milestone. It could be our firstborn or it could be second, but so especially a lot of my community are missing out on the early intervention because doctors they're just dismissing them. Oh, he's a boy, or he's gonna talk later. Oh, let's see him wait. And as you know that the funding, the path starts at 2.5 years. That's when they get into the school, but they need to be diagnosed before, they need to apply before. So we're talking about a year and a half, right? To see if any of those milestones meet, and those doctors are not helpful. I'm sorry to say that. I'm sorry. I respect all doctors, but my community are suffering and they are victims of this. And because again, there are new immigrants and they're lost, most of them. And by the time they know that their kid needs could be 4 or 5 or 3 and something, but you and I do know how long it takes. By the time they're accepted, oh, he's 5, you no longer qualified for 5, so you have to go to the next level. So even those family willing, accepting to help, it's too late for them. So where do they start? Really, when it's just, do they have to have an autism a diagnosis or as simple as delay? These are the things that I would want you to kind of explain to them from a very simple, let's say he's 1 year old, he's delaying, what can they do to help that child and get those benefits like everyone else?
So when it comes, PAF funding doesn't mean just a diagnosis either. It is that delay with language, a severe delay in language for the PAF funding. But again, I totally hear you, and I would feel the frustration that the families are feeling when it comes to their children. You know, maybe expecting that there is some delays. Again, a lot of you are speaking multiple languages in your home and then going to a doctor here. They may look at it as like, oh, well, it's because there's 2 languages in their homes. Children are like little sponges, and they can take 2 languages. But if there's milestones that aren't being met, what I would suggest is families start documenting those kinds of things, the things that they see that they're just not sure about, and make sure that they have that with them when they go to their doctors, and explain to them, this is what I see, and keep that documentation of every time you go to the doctors as well as another big part of that, so that they can see that you have been trying to figure out what's happening, if there is a delay, or am I just being a cautious parent? Like you said, some families, this is their first child, so they're not sure what to expect, you know, for those to hit those certain goals and milestones as they grow. So again, documenting those kinds of things moving forward. So there is, again, to have FSCD, you do have to have a diagnosis. That is how FSCD works. There is a part of FSCD, and I'm not sure if it's 100% still the way it goes, that you can actually apply for FSCD funding if you are querying an autism or any sort of diagnosis. We'll go with autism today, but if you are querying about an autism diagnosis, you can get onto FSCD for some respite help as you're going through the process. Like you said, the wait time for a diagnosis could be up to 1.5 years. Again, that is a long time to wait, and families need help now. They can't wait that long. So there is ways to get a FSCD contract going. So it is a lengthy process online that you can do to fill out for FSCD. And what they do is, once you have filed your FSCD paperwork, it'll go to, I believe it's no different in my area than it would be in Edmonton or in Calgary. It goes to a main place. They will go through your application, and then they send it off to say whether it's been approved or not. And then you would have to wait for an FSCD worker to call. And with that call is when they would make your initial appointment to chat with them and go over kind of why you're looking for FSCD services. Same with when you do have an actual diagnosis. If you get that diagnosis, again, it's filling out that paperwork. So if there is something that families are querying about, they feel that they may be going down the road to an actual diagnosis eventually, the best bet is to start that FSCD process, just getting their name into the FSCD database, that kind of thing. It is an online, it is kind of a difficult form. So I don't know if there's any agencies within Calgary or Edmonton that actually does help families get through that online process, because it can be, you have to have that My Alberta digital ID, I think, to get onto there, just to get that in there. So it is kind of a bit of a process. So I think that's where some families need to start to kind of get that FSCD support rolling.
I'm just gonna ask there are 37 people. Please, Huton Talikum, go ahead. But in the meantime, I will be asking you another question. My other question for you is that when you say diagnosis, it could be a severe delay.
Sorry, could you before going to the next question, would you mind if you explain that in Tigrinya, please? There are people who needs. Yes.
Okay. كندي ሰባት አሉ ትራንስሌት ምክንያቱ እንድሕር ከምዚ እንድሕር ኮይኑ ሓንቲ ብሓንቲ በቢ ሓደ ሓሳብ ኣብ መንጎ ጠጠው እንዳበልኩ ሓቲ ትኽእል እየ ትራንስሌት ክገብር ይኽእል እየ እሞ ኣይፈለጥኩን ደለኹ እቲ ናህና audience ኒ ክንደይ ሰባት እዮም ክስታይ ዝገብሩ ዘለዉ ዘድልዮም can you just write down in the message ክንደይ ሰባት ከም ምዃኑ but in the meantime ተሓሳብ ብሓፈሽኡ ክዛረብ ይኽእል እዩ እንታይ ኣትብል ዘላሲ እቲ ልክዕ ሕጂ መጀመርያ እታ መጀመርያ ክትግበር ዘለዋ ትብል ዘላ ኩላህና ደቀና ኣብ ባህልና ይፈልጥ እያ ኣነ ሕጂ ስወዲ ሕጂ ክልተ ዓመት ዘቕረበ ቆልዓ ኣለኒ ካብ መጀመርያ ትሒዘ እዚኣ ብሽዱሽተ ወርሑ ከምዚኣ ገብራሎ ብዓመቱ ከምዚኣ ገብራሎ ኢለ ይፅሕፍ ፅሕፍ ነይረ እዚኣ ክገብራሎ እንተኮይኑ ኣብዚኣ ደንግዩ ክሳዕ ክንደይ ከምኡ እንዳበልና ዶክሜንትድ ክንገብር ኣለና ድሕራይ እንድሕር ዝኾነ ቁርብ ደንግዩ ናብ ምስቲ ዶክተርና ክንከይድ ከለና ናይ ዓመትን 6 ወርሕን ክንከይድ ከለና እምበኣር ዝቆልዓ እዝን ክሳብ ሕጂ ባባ ማማ ይበለን ንኣብነት ባባ ማማ ይበለን ፖይንት ኣይገብርኒ ኩሉ ግዜ ቆልዓ ዊጥ የብሊ ኣብ ዓድና ኖርማል ዊጥ እዚኣ ሃብኒ ወላ ኣፍ ከዘይተዛረበ ዊጥ ኣቢሉ እዚኣ ደሊ እንድሕር ዘይብል ሃልዩ እዚኣን ኣይብለን ኣሎ ወደይ ንብል ሕጂ ኣነ ኣብዚኣ እንታይ እየ ክዛረብ ዝደሊ ተቐዳዲሞም ኣውቲዝም ኣይብሉን እዮም ተቐዳዲምካ ሌበል ምግባር የለን ጥራይ ዲሌይ ክኾን ይኽእል እዩ ግን ቅልጥፍ ኢልና እንድሕር እቲ ካብ መጀመሪኡ እንድሕር ክንከታተሎ ፀኒሕና ኖርማል ዲሌይ ገሊኡ ቆልዓ ክድንጉ ይኽእል እዩ ገሊኡ ቆልዓ ከዓ ቀፂሉ ናብ ኣውቲዝም ክኸይድ ይኽእል እዩ ስለዚ ካብ መጀመርያ ዶክሜንት ምግበር እያ ትብደላ ዶክሜንት እንዳገበርና እንድሕር ፀኒሕና ምስቲ ዶክተር እዚኣ ጎዲላ ኣላ እዚኣ ኣይጎደለትን እንዳበልና ምስቲ ዶክተር እንድሕር ፀኒሕና ቀልጢፍና ናይ ክንርዳእ ንኽእል ኢና ትብል ኣላ እቲ ፎርም ድማ እዚ ናይ FSCD ትብሎ ዘላ ኣብ ኦንላይን ኣሎ ብጣዕሚ ከቢድ ዝበለ ፎርም እዩ ሓቃ እያ ኣነ ናይ ብዙሓት ሰባት መሊአ ዝሕግዛ ኤጀንሲ ኣይፈልጥኒ እንተልዩ ትብል ኣላ ኣነ እውን ኣይፈልጥኒ ብግለይ ቤተሰበይ ድሕግዝ እንተትፈልጥዎ ሃሊኹም ድማ እቲ ከምዚ ዓይነት ፎርም ዝመላእ እንድሕር ሃልዩ ፕሊዝ ፀሓፉልና ሞ ወላ ንሕና እውን ክንፈልጥ ነቶም ፋሚሊ ናብዚኣ ኺዱ ክንብል ኣነ ኣይፈልጥኒ ኣብዚኣ ኢና ጠጠይና ዘለና ሕቶ okay how far okay there is a question I don't know if you can read it via chat Christina
yeah
can you read it
I am yeah it's how far does FSCD I was just going to answer it in the chat but I can answer it here I turned my video off I live out in the country and our internet just seems to be kind of silly tonight so FSCD can do lots of different things so especially if there's once you have if you have an actual diagnosis so now we're off of PUF funding because PUF funding is school-based funding that happens within your
sorry about that because I think I'm gonna translate like every paragraph that you say if you work
okay.
That way
yeah.
I think that if you don't mind because I think this is very crucial and I don't want to be like miss out any information or kind of mislead them so if you don't mind let's do one and then I'll just translate and then I'll go to the next that way they're not missing out and I'm sure I will do a better job that way
absolutely so yes so FSCD and PUF funding are two separate things. PUF funding is for when the child is in school. FSCD can be in-home supports as well.
Okay, so PUF دبها لف I believe right? So نبيت مرتي زخون fund نبيت مرتي بحر like you said earlier it has I don't know I've helped few families they said you have to have a diagnosis but as simple as delay right? It doesn't have to be a real autism diagnosis right?
No, you're right. It doesn't have to be autism, ADHD, or any Downs, anything like that. PUF can be based on a severe language delay as well.
Okay. So it's a PUF which is ናይ ቤት ትምህርቲ ብዙሓት ቤት ትምህርትን ሓንቲ ዓይነት ሓንቲ ደይኮና ብዙሓትን መሪፅኩም ቀሲልኩም ተኣትውን ትደልይዎን እዩ ቤት ትምህርቲ እቲ PUF እቲ ፕሮቪንሻል ዝኽፈል እዩ እዚኣቶም ናይ ግድን ዲያግኖስ ኣይግቦን ናይ ግድን ናይ ኣውቲዝም ኣለዎ ሌብል ኣይድልን ጥራይ ዲሌይ እንድሕር ኮይኑ ንኣብነት ኣይዛረብን እንተኣሉ ወላ ከማን እንድሕር ኣውቲዝም ኣይሃለዎ ኣይዛረብን እንድሕር ሃልዩ كابو تبجيسو أبزي باث أبلاي الحرجير which is PUF أبلاي الحرجير وتي أمي خرخبوت خير الحجر زي بيني تي نا FSCD خاء السوق أبجزها حامتي ويدما سيرفيسات ترخبو يأتي ولا زين كنت أنت فلا عليه خدتي أين قد نولادك تا ناي مجمرة ناي قد diagnose يتلك ناوي autism و ADHD كلون يبلون تخيل دما تأبجزها متي أم تقول راجل قديتا diagnosis كهلو كارلو وتلا لا قصد go ahead
Yes.
yeah you can continue hello can you hear me
Yeah, we can hear you. Hello.
So Christina, go ahead. Continue with the benefits.
I think she mentioned that but there's an internet issue.
Maybe cut off gear واكي كون ما أنا دو حنتي حتى كقرب.
Okay, go ahead.
Like عندك حتى حسيبة نيرة. ده نعخ حتى كمو استخ translate كتقبر لي أو خلخي. أنت يسكت قول حفتي هلا شو ما أنت عمتي عتزاربنا قال كل activity smart يا كن عتزارب. حسابه ولا حنتي تكلم أنا ولا حنت قليته وتصنع بيجي كامل جام مالتي. أجي أبجزا نيران speech therapy نيروا. يمتى نيران. هلو سمعون لهم مش؟
هو نسمع لنا.
حجي نسان كونترات نودين سلسة عمت تيرو كونترات ودين حجي كان أيكون قصر الله دلينا من هاتو there is something changes لز قبرت كانت رف تزاري بكات زبل كاس تدوق مسل جمرت مالتي كن قصر دلينا أبتي behavioral behavioral support development support زبال أو أتيهم تحتو تقول يوم يلومنا مسحان تقول كونتاكت جيرنا مالتي حجي كمان جيرنا كنركب نغل كلا جزء كونتراكت كنفرو
حتى زي أي تحزن لي زي أنا بعد كموي عنده أنا خاطر ما في عبد ستيل كل جزء ده حكاب حدا كيس فلان ديو تما هاريتي أنو حجي نع حتى مو أستاذ زيادة دعمل سخط كتبنا أقسمت متساعدين قوة الله مالتي
I think كريستينا الله يفتقلنا
حجيتي نعتا دياغنوسيس هالو علي مخنياتو متقام انتا يزبال إيكولي لا يزبال أنا خبتي زنبو بومبر فلتات هالي اللي قالها يمسلكي just خبتي زنبو بوي so انتا يتو دياغنوسا أوتيزم ديو؟
يا أوتيزم يا
أوكي أبو حجي نعاقنا حتى إنا حجي تبلي زالة خسي ثم أبغى متين لين اتصال
يا أبغى متين speech therapy قبل أن يرن سلسة عمد كونتراكت يرن
حجي تودي تودي خدمة
ودي أنا بر كونتراكت نسلسة عمد حنتي therapy كسدال كخلوها نسلسة عمد كونتراكت يختفر حجي سلسة عمد توديس كال أجزيد اللي نام نهاد زخانة changes لزرعنا بتقال لوتس لزرعنا كال أجزيد
كال أجزيد موسكوي قال أي جزء ده يكون شيء it's on ongoing تقول إذا عادي كسبت تدل درجة كسبت بس احتراق بلي يقولون أنا بتناتي رديت مالك قد زيادة خان عخن حتى أنا أحد جزء معي إن شاء الله
فريتا أنا زي أخذ السلة نزحفتي
The site have to say something I think.
Okay, yeah نزحفتي أنا أخذ السلة فريتا حتى إذا كنترات مسلسة عامتها كسبتي قلعات عشو كل نجار أبلع على درجة جلس بتصح جلا يلنكم أبناء FSCD مالتيو.
Thank you حفتي.
يا جن أزل حفتي فليكينو مالتيو وداي زاربن معبالون يلن مالتيو كل نجار سيد تصقمو مالتيو نحن تعمت نسا وسيخنا بدحريو جن كأتيلا على كأتلتن أي زبلت كون نجار يلن جن أب اتكالب كل نجارات بنفيت هالو في أبجزامة حاجة سجلجن أي فلت كون نجار يلن جزئة زحتي مس كريستينا نجارك يا أبو جير أمبر كونترات مسلسة عمته يا جن زحتك مت يا في الزارك يا برخص اللي تقمت كونكشن بتاع محماي أمسانا الكون يكون أوكي بتشار
ده صاير حفتي كحتى كده
زيادة
كحتى أنا تماهل كده له هو مثلا استعملت هونجن إن من تايد على من قال يوم ده أدوس خوام
تحتي كلا إجزيس تحتي يا أخي
هو كلا إجزي حاجة أخذ قبل مسيلكي عارزين كلاتكم فاميلي زلهم أمور دعوة أنا ون كزاربوكمي مسكسنا جوين كتقبل كلا من الوقت ريكارد جالري أتوقعون تخيلة كتفرحون تخيلة أن تسرحات أجمع مسألة تاي مسيلكم مسألة عزنا FSCD من نجير كازكم بنفيتكم زل يمزولها نعي حجي زنا بزل حواتي فلبينين نجيراناني جزاها مسكوين هتصنع حلو رسي هتصنع حلو ما راح ندي بتقول شجير كخمزل لها ناي تقول عاد صبك تزارب يبلك ناي تقول كل نجر شالو كل نجر أجدد عبيك تزيد تزارب كا زخون عينت بنفيت يتركبنيها كم زأنا زقات أماني مالتي أب تزبل كيرو ماني زي قربتي يقول مالتي ناي قلت أجا مالو أب حمش معلتي أب شوعت معلتي قلي زبل لقنا دما دعم كفيديو ناتو تعشو مالتيو رابع عمت دقي مونوجل ثالث عمت تسيلو دي قال أيفلتكم ستيل جن تمزي سامر كامبس بهالله سامر كامب فعلنا عم ولا يخيديو حجونا إذا حج لنا زي بريك زنا يقول عزلوا حجنا يتمشوا مالتيو قومون مسأنا له ستيل في FSCD له التي ثيرابي جن تسيلو دي أتسألنا يفلجن تأجي مني بقى خم عقمين لا على كوينيلكي نتنا أوتي ناي سبيتش الساتن دس بلان سنكسر حاسلمتي أشحات جنزب على ساعة لزوز ده دلوا مالتي أنتي فايت جن مسماني خد جابري مستنى FSCD شوشال وركر كي خد جابر مالتي أنا قد محجني راتني شوشال وركر تسلم مالتيو كاب وايت كورتي أنا ناتي نيرا بقى تزيد اللي إن شاء الله كمان مستسلم رئة جلس موقت حجزان قباني دن تين كبلكي لي بس قات أمي بتعم جنايتين أنا بأخمان تنصعدوا يحشان أرزاني الساقة دي فيه بقى زي سنة سامعي كالتن ملء سيرفيس هيتقبر لنا نازلة زخون نقر نزاربا صبغ يراونا باخو ما يتحلف نافتهم لعلوت مالتيو أي تحلفون يا زلة قليلنا مالتيو حجب على الجزاي نو إيسو كده حنقدر فيها قليل نيرو مالتيو نو قوم زبها النقر يسرحني إله بعلي فايت جير الله كان زرع خين كازين خواتي كأني حق زناني مالتي كان زخت الليكي قليلناني نابهين تنزبها لالو تقانا مالتي كتما كأو مزيا قال كله كورونا جزيس لازنا برا أني تكال أي جزء عمت ناي تقول قول ده ترى أي خيب قول كبلكم كله ساينس بيتكم كفلو فيديو سكرين لجماعة كابتنا توم تمرت تقول عزم مهارلو تامون هورون تا برينسيبل نايت تمرتن بفيديو يقربها مالتيو تانا FSCD خا عندحر أفتخبابيهم تقينا أب حدا ديسكو خين كاتر دا مالتيو عندحر روح أطفال كاجن بفيديو جيرن كلات كخفت بن طالعة يسوكيت أجابي يقولون طالعة ترخبت صبوا تزي ترخبت جن زجد ده خان جر يلن مالتيو ترخاخبك تقول ناي طالعة يزرع بس عندما تناي سبيتش ناي وتندماني بقت أمخويننا هنا قد أرسل زخانة بتعملوا فعاتين بتعمل بقى خمت أنا عليه مالتيو نتجنزبن ترى يكون نزجر سنة يطلع عقول كاب تعمل سلزجر دسن مالتيو عب ختمها جن ولا نتناي سبيتش ناي أوتي إيجنسس لزلكم ناي ممرات عدل علىك مالتيو تكم زوالكو تقولك أنا مسترعية أنتي بودي والله شقاق يخيدو براش كي يقبردو بعلو نفسه خيلو ويكأني بزي فاميلي يدون أقرن كي حازو فاميلي نورمال ريلاكس كوين يقبردو بزح نقرات مالتي أفتقول ترى إشعو حانت عمد كده تعمد توسخكي مالتنا ومحجانة لن زمن نايم مود أتعملتيو لقناون هيلب زد لي غلعون يبلين مالتي كم زي عايز فلت أنا ندعف أبخاتكم
حراي عزي أبن حتىكي
متى أجن كي تخون ميس كريستينا
متى الله مثلا أدميت قبرة
هو متى الله صبوا أيكون
حنساب المبدأ كلنا حنساب نسامع تي تشمو أمون قنا جرنات أن إحنا نساها أمتان كتردنا حدا جزيتي علنا أقارص قبلنا بإنجليش لحتتنا أنا تصبوا الله مالتي سحجي حساب نقارص تصبت أنا حمالتي أوكي thank you go ahead Frida.
So welcome, Christina. Were you disconnected?
Yeah, it just disconnected, but then I had to wait for it to come back in. So I'm back.
No worries. There is a question. There is a question from one of the participants, and her question is, her niece, who's now 8 years old, she got a service from FSCD for 3 years, but and there was a lot of change, but they need more help. They really do. And the family and they wanted to reapply. Can you help? Because to be honest with you, I actually did not know about this. I thought, yes, I knew about it. It ends in 3 years, but I thought you could reapply and continue to get those services. So it's, to me, this is another aha moment for me that I just learned about this, and that's why I love doing what I do, because we continue to learn from the participants. So could you please answer those questions for us, or try to help us? Where do they go? Like they finish the contract, but they still need the help.
Yeah, so I'm not familiar. We've only have, so in our small area, we've only got a couple families that do an extended contract. So their contract is a 3-year term, unless they were doing like specialized services. So can you just clarify with her if it was specialized services, or was it a 3-year contract right across the board? Because specialized services is different.
I need you to, even me, I don't know. Would you mind to explain to me what are those two different? What are they?
Okay.
Before I ask her, I too want to know, because I don't know.
Okay, so a specialized service contract is a contract that is put in place that will put SLP, so speech language, occupational therapy, into the contract as well. So that child would receive, could be weekly, depends on how much need is there of those services in place. It could also put a support worker in place that provides in-home support or out-of-home support on a specialized contract. So it's giving you more of the OT and the SLP services, direct services for that child, in-home and out-of-home, providing the family with help in learning some of those basic skills on how to support their child with SLP and OT. A 3-year contract might be set up for a child who has a severe, somebody with could be cerebral palsy, sometimes with something like who else would be another one? Severe autism delay, where the family doesn't have those in-home supports, but they just do a longer term on their contract. So there's a specialized contract that has OT and speech that can be in the home or out of the home services. And then there is a lengthier contract. So it just so the family doesn't have to renew, especially if it's a diagnosis of cerebral palsy. That's not going to change for the family. So they just extend the contract to make it longer. So the family doesn't have to do the renewal process as often.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the family, and so Ariam,
Yes.
Okay, كتحكي لو تخلي إذا كنت إذا حنت specialize develop له هذا دما ناي 3 عامات contract develop له so أبي يدلا.
ኣብቲ ናይ 3 ዓመት ኮንትራት እንዳ ነይራ
She was at the 3 years contract.
ግን ክንውስኽ ደሊና ይከኣለን ይፍቀደና ይኹ ክንውስኽ ግን ኣብቲ ዌይቲንግ ሊስት ነዊሕ ስለ ዘሎ እንታይ ክንገብር ንኽእል እየ ዝብል ዘለኹ ኣነ ቅልጥፍ ኢላ ዘቆልዓስ መሊሳን ድሕሪት ከይተመልሰ ኩሉ እቲ ፍሪዝ ኮይኑ ዘሎ ነገር ሲ በቲ ጀሚራቱ ዘላ ንክትቅፅል ቅልጥፍ ኢልና ክንረኽበሉ ንኽእል ነገር ሲ እንታይ ኣሎ እንታይ ዓይነት ፕሮሰስ ክንጥቀም ኣለና እየ ዝብል ዘለኹ ኣነ
Okay, Christina. So the question is she's in the 3 years contract and they know that they are allowed to reapply, but the waiting list is it's bad, as you and I know.
Hard,
so how can they approach them? Like, there any shortcuts? Really, that's the question. Because this girl is young and they've seen a lot of change, and by the way, she's nonverbal, but she's just started to repeat, which is the Eccac, repeat what they're saying. So they have just seen, but she's very smart. So they
all are
change.
They all are.
Yes, they're brilliant. So they've seen a lot of change, and they want to continue. Now the waiting list is where the issue, because earlier I was talking about this waiting list, and and she wants to know, is there any way that they can go a little bit?
Okay, so FSCD is not meant to be a lifelong program. FSCD is meant to help for the time that is needed, and the family is to build the skills and the help to help their child. FSCD is only supposed to be put in for a short-term period. Some of them get a little bit longer depending on their child's diagnosis, but if their daughter is making great gains and progressing well, FSCD would look at that as a win for the family, that the family has really gained the skills to help support their child and get their child, you know, in a better area than what she was when they first started. So, and on the side here it says, I think this is the same lady. Maybe that, so they had a 6 month of BDS services, and then specialized services gave them 6 more months. So that is what they can do, is they will only give them so much because they do see progress, and that's a great thing. So they have to remember that FSCD is not a lifelong thing for them. It is to help them get through some of those difficult things that they're working on and are struggling with. And when there is progress, that is huge. That's amazing. And that FSCD would look at that as a big win. I understand that they're still looking, that there is things that they might still have concerns with. So they have to take those concerns back to their worker. I don't believe their file gets, like their file might be closed, but there is, you can ask to have it opened up again. But if they have done an amazing job at getting their concerns met and dealing with what they had went to FSCD for in the first place, they may not receive another contract right away. The idea
عقبكم كن اوكي
انتي تزحتو خي محدث يا تازي عقبتك حتى يا زعد الرخيب يا خلقي
وانتي ديو مسيلكي كساب زحو كخونا له تقلع كتب له صنحت كله ترديني زغنا وصيت انت داريهم سي سكسسفولي كوينو زلو زنابره كونتراكت بلا الله ግን እትቆልዓ የድልዮ እንተ ኮይኑኸ ክውስኽ እንተ ደልዩ እትወላድኸ ማለትዚ ክሳብቲ ክበፅሖ ሎንግ ላይፍ የብሉ እንትብላ ኣላ ያ ኮንትራክት ሳክሰስ ኮይኖም የሚኣኽሎም እዮም ኢሎም ኣይኮኑን ግን ኣቋሪፆም ናይ ዘቆልዓ የኣኽላ ኢሎም ኣይኮኑን ኣቋሪፆም ኮንትራክት ስለዝወድኦም ኣቋሪፆም ከም ዘድልያ ሲፈልጣ ሕተታ ንሕና ኮንትራክትና ስለዝወደና ክንወፅና ክንቅፅል ኣይንኽእልን ኢና እስኹም ግን ሕተቱ ኢለናና ከይደነተን መምሃራን ከይተረፋ ማለት እዩ ሶ ዝኾነ ካልእ ክንገብሮ ንኽእል ሜላስ የለን ማለት እዩ በዚ ናይ ይዛጓል ዘረባ ከም ዝተረዳእኒ ብናይ ክርስቲና
ኦኬ ካሓታ ክእሊ ግን ኣብ መስመር ፀንሒ ክርስቲና so what she's saying is that it's not because she have done a tremendous progress and then they are done. They were in the process.
Ab special school خاتمهار بمنجست مالتي بمنجستي
ببين هو السوتي باخ اللي كتب له الله مش كواتي انا حكي شو منت باغيرا واتي اخو
يا تي بروفيدنس واتي سو يبلان
واتي اوكي
كاو واتي في رسته ماهرا واتي ودي
sorry Preta
grade 2 جن special مستوب special زبحوا لعتمهار
Hello.
Go ahead, Asait.
Hi. Hello.
Sorry, just I want to add for Ariam's question because I know the case. So what Ariam is asking about his child, first she have the BDS service for 6 months, then they give her the specialized services for 1 year. Again, they give her the BDS service for 6 months. And there is progress, but mild progress. So they are asking the family for extending, if they can extend the service for them. So this is the question, the main question. So they have the BDS service for 6 months, then specialized service, then they have the 6 months BDS service again. So they are looking for another extending BDS or specialized service because she need help. Okay. So this is the question of Ariamis. So to make it a little bit clear, thank you.
Thank you, Natsunet.
Thank you.
So I'm not familiar why they would for specialized services. So in our area, when a specialized service contract gets put in place, it's automatic for 3 years. So in our area where we have FSCD, we automatically get 3 years. If a child has a specialized service contract, they get 3 years of specialized services. So
Oh, okay. Here is different in Calgary, Christina. So they have the services for 6 months. This is a starting. Then we have the specialized service for 1 year. Then after that, we have for 6 months BDS service. So by this time, it depends on the case workers, but because we have different in Calgary, I don't know from where you are, but this is how it works. So some families, they get the extended, but some not. So they are asking like how we can get the extended of that services, BDS. I know they can't give specialized services again, but there is probability of giving the BDS services.
And they can't go back to their FSCD worker and say, hey, look, like we are still struggling with this, and this, and have them reopen it. That's not an option.
Yeah, that's an option. Maybe they can contact the case workers and contact, from the case workers, probably they will extend. They can, this is the only thing they can do. Talking with the workers,
we already asked.
So Nathaniel, instead of waiting, like reapplying, they can go straight to the previous caseworker.
Not reapplying, actually. They just, they can just contact Habai, so they can ask like that. So the reply is from the caseworkers because we have different services here in Calgary. So
we already contact someone. We already contact someone, but they say we are in the waiting list. I'm asking if we have another option.
I think Ariam's question is like, can you place some like I think the waiting list is like but it's going to take longer, right? So something to make it faster. Like if there's a trick,
I don't see why they're on a waiting list though if they've already got an open file.
Yeah, so what's the best way like to communicate or like
I would directly contact your worker and I would ask them straight out, because like your file shouldn't be closed just because you've done that. You shouldn't have to be waiting. There is a contract delay. So that's the other thing that you have when your contract does come to an end, and you are going to ask for another 6 months, or because the family is looking like or sounding like they need more help with their little one, which is fine. That there will be a delay in the contract though. We have a delay here too. Some families delay is about a month's time, maybe even a little bit longer, but your contract would be backdated to the date when your last contract ended.
Okay, so
okay, thank you, Christina.
I think we have other 2 questions on the line. The first one,
I think I have to give a chance for others. Thank you so much.
The second one is,
I hope that helps. Like I would just say get in contact with your your FSCD worker and say, hey, like we're still struggling with these things and we still need support.
Okay, thank you, Christina.
so
I did see that first question there that says, it was from an iPhone 14 Pro. This question is critical. I have heard that once any child is diagnosed with ADHD or autism, does it stay on their healthcare data? Once a child has been diagnosed, that diagnosis does not leave them. That does not get fixed or cured in any sort of way. They will always have that with them.
I have a question on that one.
Whether or not they share that information, that's up to the individual.
I have a question for you though. Some, which I have witnessed, were misdiagnosed. And how can they revoke that? Because some of them, and not a lot, but some of them were absolutely misdiagnosed because they had some symptoms of autism, and their pediatrician just gave them that label, an autistic kid, and therefore they proved them, and they were off of it. So how could you provoke just because that kid was misdiagnosed?
They would probably have to go back through the process of going through another ed psych type evaluation, those kinds of things, another assessment. Unfortunately, that is something that does happen, and I feel for those families as well, that, you know, now we're labeling when we shouldn't be labeling. And again, these labels like can impact families greatly, for those that, you know, don't want to hear the label, for those who are waiting to hear if there is a diagnosis, to add more supports for their child, because then they actually have an understanding. That one I'm not 100% sure on. I would assume that they would have to go back for another assessment, that, you know, some of those things, again, it's so difficult too, because some of the, what we would call red flags that are present when somebody goes for a diagnosis, can be other things as well, or can change over time. So, you know, the not responding to their name when their name is being called, those kinds of things can develop over time. It may have just been delayed at that time, and it does pick up eventually. So that one is difficult. My best bet would say go back to your doctor, go back to your family doctor, and go through that process again.
We're just gonna go to the next one, and the reason why many family in our community, the main reason they're not taking their kids for diagnosis is because of afraid of that misdiagnosed, because they are also either bilingual or trilingual, and for that matter, some of them they watch TV at a very young age, and they're so tuned into it, which is now I'm just learning about the virtual autism, right? All the signs and red flags is there as such. So they're afraid, because if that kid is labeled, therefore is labeled for the rest of his life if that kid is not. So it's so hard for family, even families, to push them to go early because of that label. And that's why it's just controversial. Anyway, I'm gonna let the other question, the other participant ask questions.
There is
My
another question, yeah. And they help youth who started late and do not want to take medication.
Okay. Can they help youth who started late?
Yeah, so suppose like if you know that your kids have ADHD and they are already grown, maybe 13, 14 years old, and if they refuse to take medication, like they're like, anyway, is there anything the family can do to put those kids on medication, taking their meds or what?
So as far as FSCD supports, a behavioral person would go in. Is there reasons why the child doesn't take their medication? Can they physically swallow the medication? Does it have a bad taste that they don't like? You know, there's lots of things that might be the reason why they're not, rather than just it's a youth and they're saying, no, I don't want to do it. There can be lots of different reasons why. It could be hard to swallow. It could have, like I said, a bad taste. Again, not understanding what the medication does for their body, or they do know what the medication does to their body and they don't like how it feels. Unfortunately, when it comes to meds with children with ADHD too, it's sometimes a trial and error with medication, in the respect that doctors prescribe a medication to help support what they think is going to support for a child with ADHD or a youth, even an adult, and that medication might not be the right one. So then you go back to the doctor and you say, no, this doesn't seem to be working. But for that child as well, not understanding how their body feels when they take it, or maybe they are very aware that their body doesn't like how that feels. So there could be lots of reasons why they may not take the medication. So looking into that a little bit more, I would go back to the doctor again. I would also talk to my child about that, if they're able to talk and share that information of why they don't want to take the medication. Maybe that just needs to be built into their routine, that this is how this goes. I'm not sure how old the youth is, but maybe that could be a reason as well too. And then it says also, can they help separate them from bad friends? Now that one is a hard one. No, FSCD does not do things like that. You'd be looking for more groups of like, I don't even know what they would be called in your area, like the youth groups, the youth support groups, those kinds of things that the kids can get involved in. Again, it's so hard to nowadays with raising kids, and especially if they have sensory or developmental delays, and helping guide them into a better path, so to speak. So it is hard. They are 15 years old, so yeah, they are quite a bit older. What if it's because they don't like how it makes them feel? Exactly. That is exactly one of the things I would be thinking of. If their body, when they take that, they don't like what it's doing to them, that would be a definite reason why I wouldn't take medication. If it did something for my body that didn't make me feel good, I wouldn't want to take it either. So again, I would go back to the doctor who prescribed and ask them if there's another medication that can be taken. The biggest problem that we see too in our small community is that those meds, once they start to, it's easy for them to just prescribe another med and prescribe another med and another one, and then never really find the one that actually works for them, because they're taking 5 or 6 now, and that's a problem. So my suggestion would be to go back to the family doctor, whoever that might be, and let them know that this child is, makes them feel bad. So
Christina, let me clarify this question actually. I think what the member wants to ask is, suppose like you have a son or a daughter, that they have ADHD or some kind of issue, right? And and they are already maybe 13, 14, teenage, and then if they don't feel that they have ADHD and they refuse to go to the family doctor or to the hospital to have them get checked, like as a parent, like what do they have to do, like to take the kids? Like is there any kind of like but like I know you can't force 14 or something,
no,
but I mean, what's the best way to have them like diagnosed or like to start taking medication? What's the best like solution, or like what the government plays? Is there like some?
there's not really there's not really anything that an organization can do to make somebody take medication. It has to be done with the family and the child, talking about what the medication does and how it would help them. Again, it's really hard because some of our young ones really do have an opinion about what they feel or they don't feel is happening with their own body, and so then that piece is hard. So again, maybe getting in to see a therapist would be another suggestion for that student to talk to, or that youth to talk to, about what their brain is like and how they view their brain, and to see if you can kind of break down those walls a little bit. It's hard, I hear, because it is a youth and they've got more knowledge than us parents do half the time anyway. So that is, you can't force anybody to take meds, but maybe the understanding needs to be a lot more clear with them, even if they're not recognizing themselves as having a diagnosis. The importance of what would happen. Again, a family doctor would be the best one to talk to, and the reasons why.
Okay, and I do have actually another question I might ask. I think this question might actually belongs to some of the people. Suppose like if I have a son with ADHD and my wife refused to have him like diagnosed or take medication, and still the children is going to get hurt, right, by not taking the proper medication or follow-ups. What part that the government plays on this? Because
when one parent chooses not to,
yes,
that's
Let me ask this, but let me explain in Tigrinya. This is حتى زلهم هتون تايو هذا جزء ويسبعي ويسبتي بدقوم أجمع كم زلوا يفلت أومو بهذا part ويسبعي ويسبتي هكملنا نكيكدو زعبيو علومو أبو كموقتات كون كله 00 تسرع كيكونت قول عيك هسي انتاي عينت نجار الله كم منجستي بمنجستي بقول FSCD زلوا نجار سوق explain قبل نادلي. Go ahead, Christina.
Okay, so it's really hard if both parents aren't on the same page when it comes to their child's diagnosis. And really, there's not a role that can be played, I don't believe, by a government agency that can force that parent to say, yes, you need to make your child take this. The parents really need to sit down and talk about what is happening with their child. Again, I get where some families come from, where they don't want their child to take medicine and they don't want them to have medication. And maybe they need to look at different avenues of different things. So again, diets play a big role with stuff with ADHD, you know, those kinds of things. Structure and routine play a huge role. And sometimes, just sometimes, the body does lack a chemical imbalance that requires a medication. So I do feel that the family would need to just sit down and kind of hash it out, the pros and cons of why this child would need this, what benefits that they would get, because that's a really hard one when the family's not on the same page as far as the child's diagnosis. So they really have to kind of come together to figure out what is the best plan for their child and what things are being affected. So obviously, if there is a prescription for a medication, something has impacted and some struggles have been had to warrant this kind of medication.
Okay, we do have two other questions. I think I texted you directly. If you can.
Yeah, so I see one. My question is, which system is good to change for food? I'm not clear on what that one is asking.
I think that question is asked by Cassis. Cassis, would you mind it?
ሰላም ክብረት ይሃበልና ኩልኩም ኣሕዋት thank you Mr. Christina. My question ምግቢ ከመይ ጌርካ ሓደ ዓይነት ምግቢ እዮም ዝበልዑ ዞም ደቅና ከም ዝበልኩኹም ኣነ ቀሻት ናተውሰ ዝበሃል ኣብ ካልጋሪ ዝቕመጥ ሕጂትዮም ክልተ ደቀይ ታዝፈትዋ ምግቢ ጥራዮም ዝበልዑ ሕጂስ ካብኡ ክንቅይረሉ ንኽእል ምግቢ ካልእ ዓይነት ምግቢ ንኽነላምዶም እንታይ ሜላ ክንጥቀም ንኽእል ወይ ዘኖም ኣሕዋት ኤርትራውያን ወይ ኢትዮጵያውያን ወይ እውን ንሳ ምኽርምታ ክትህበና ትኽእል ማለት እዚኣ ዘላ ትሕት
Okay, I think his question is he do have like two kids and they only eat one type of food, and how can he like help his kids like change to eat some like a different type of food? They only eat like one kind of food.
Does his children have a diagnosis?
Yes, I think yes.
Autism?
Autism مش كاسيس؟
هو كومين يوم مزلو نخلص مالتي أما مسرح التي تتاشم قلت كاب إسرائيل حزنا مساعد صعب كومي زبل أبزون حدا مرمرات غيره كومي لا دكتور وديات الله زغلت المرمرات ناي مسمعنا مزراب وجلز بالمال على زبر مالتي هفشاوجن بكومي زلتي ورقات فايل.
So they brought the report from Israel, and then I think they already diagnosed one of the kids, and they are still working on the other one. And
Okay.
They are progressing, but he's just wondering like how could he help them eat a different type of food. Like,
so and I'll try and maybe break it up a little bit in case you have to give him some of the information before I just go too far in talking. So sometimes our kiddos, and it doesn't mean that they have autism or not. Some kiddos are sensory kiddos. So they are sensitive to different types of foods, smells of food, textures of foods, and sometimes it actually inhibits a gag reflex, even if they see it on their plate. So we do a lot of fun stuff with our kiddos when it comes to food sensitivities, such as things that they don't want to eat or don't want to try. So we do a lot of things called food play, where we expose children to all types of different foods, but we do it in a fun, playful manner first before we ever expect them to put it anywhere near their mouth or in their mouth. So lots of our kiddos do like hard, crunchy things, just because it gives them more feedback in their mouth, so they like how it feels. They can hear it. The textures of it are fitting. It's dry. It doesn't have to mush around in their mouth. So they tend to choose those kind of hard, gushy things. So then what we do is we would introduce in small amounts something else that would be something not preferred to them. And we would start with just actually using a spoon or a fork and letting them play with it first before we ever expected them to put it towards their mouth. And once they're comfortable with those foods in front of them, so it's kind of like, if you think of it like a staircase, to get them, they have to try things so many times before they'll actually eat it. Again, exposure is huge. They need to be exposed to different foods. Again, things that are very strong in flavor or in smell might not be something that they enjoy. So you may have to make something, I know I've been to Desuet's home multiple times, and the smell of your guys' food and the food that you have within your culture always smells so good, but it might be strong for some of our kiddos. So you may have to think of things that don't have such a strong smell to them to integrate to their foods. Again, trying little steps is kind of it's hard to explain it in such a short way here, but introducing different types of foods can be very beneficial if you do it in just small doses. So, put it on a plate beside them. Don't put it directly on their plate. Expose them by what you're eating. Talk about the food that you have. Try and keep the words like, oh, I like it, oh, it tastes so good, because maybe they don't. And we do that a lot when we're with our kiddos. We always try and imply like, oh, it tastes really good, you should try it. Maybe it doesn't for them. So we don't want to give them a false sense that it should taste good by saying, oh, well, it's good, I like it, you should like it. We should let them explore it on their own. Maybe I can send Desuet kind of our little scale that she can share with you guys to see kind of some of the things that we do to help kids explore different food options.
Desuet, please go ahead and then share yours.
Okay, thank you, Miss Christina.
Yes.
ናይ ዝሓወ ሓቲቱ ዋድ ፀንሐ ናይ መግቢያ ትዛረብ ዘላ ሓቂ ምሽ ዳኒ ሶሪ እንዳቦልክ ፀንሐካ ብስታሽሙ እቲ መግቢ ከምኡ ናይ ዛጓለይ ሰንሰሪ ናይ መግቢ ኣለዋ ተወሰነ መግቢያ ትበልዕ ነራ ከምዝ ቀደም ማለት እዩ ድሓርቲ ናታ ክነግረኩም እየ ሚስ ክርስቲና ከይድ ሕዛብ እንታን ፅቡቅ ገይረ ድሓር ነዝሓወይ ዋንካ እንካልኦት ኤክስፕሌን ገብረሎም እያነ ማለት እዩ እቲ ናይ መግቢ ኣማጋግባ እንደገና ድማኒ ከመይ ጌርካ ከኣኒ ብሜላታት ከኣኒ ነቶም ኣቆልዑት ከዓ ኣብ ጎኖም እንዳገበርካ ከም ዝኽፍለኩም ብፀንሐት ምስኦም ከዓ መግቢ እንዳሰራሕካ ማለት እዩ ከምኡ እንድሰርሓ ነይረን ኣብ ክሽነ ምስኣ ዝዘዋልየ ኮይነን ሓንቲ ቅድሚ ምምታር ከምዚ ኬረት ገለ ማለት እዩ ሓንቲ ትመትራ እሞ ቅድሚ ምምታርካ ኣብ ኣፎም ይእቱ እሳ ምስኣ ኮይና ትልሕሶ እንደገና ከኣኒ ጥዑም ኣሎ እንደገና ከዓ ትሕይኾ ማለት እዩ እንታይ ጥዒምካ ኢኖም ንዖም ነቶም ኣቆልዑሲ comfortable ነዊሕ ይትካእሹ ግን ድሓን እዚኣ ግዜ ከይከዳ ንዓም እንታ ንዓቅድሞን ሃባ ድሓ ኤክስፕሌን ገብረሎም እያ
There is two questions. I think one is mine and one is another question that was asked by if you go to the text, I don't know if you're able to access it. There's two questions there, and that's what's the pros and cons of the psychoeducational assessment for kids. I think it's more of the evaluation of the comprehensive and mental process of the other one, whether they're low or high. I think I don't know, that's probably my understanding, but she's asking about that. And my question is, finally, this is the last question I'll be asking you. What do you think about the merit for treatment for both autism and ADHD. Those two questions.
What was the psych ed assessment for children with autism? Here's the thing about that, is that our little friends with autism, when they enter the school system, if they've already been diagnosed, the school is aware of that. So to do another psych assessment for children with autism, I don't know if it's why they would need another one if they've already got a diagnosis. The thing is that when we do those kind of assessments within the school too, sometimes our kiddos don't care to share the information that they have locked up inside those little brains of theirs. You know, if you have a child with autism and you are here, you probably know that they probably have high interest items. Some of them know the alphabet, frontwards, backwards, can say it either way and can line them up, and they know exactly what it is. They can count and recognize numbers. Some of them actually can read at a very young age. And so, you know, the pros and cons of it, again, allowing the school to know, again, it seems like I just can't believe how different some of our systems are within this province, because we seem to have a different kind of system when it comes to FSCD and services in our area than you guys do in Edmonton or in Calgary. Again, I know larger cities, there's more, and then there's families trying to find the systems to get involved in them. So it is kind of different when it comes to a small town and what services are being offered there. I know psych assessments within the schools. Schools in our area only get 2 assessments. Only 2 students in the entire school are allowed to have assessments in a year. So, and again, it's typically they do it with children who have lots of behavioral concerns. And the unfortunate thing behind that is that the behavioral concerns, everybody always talks about behavior as being a bad thing. And behavior truly is the reaction to something that has happened. And it doesn't mean it's bad. So when we talk about behavior, automatically people's brains go right over to the negative side of it, that it's bad. And lots of times the reason why behaviors are happening is because our children have no way to communicate. Their sensory systems are overloaded. Their workload is overloaded at schools. You know, the understanding of what is happening next is not there, and they just have no way to share that information with us. So we start to see behaviors happening because of those things. And that's the hard part that faces a lot of families, is that it comes back as like, oh, your child's not doing this or your child's not doing that. So when those psych ed assessments happen, it's based on because your child was probably misbehaving in their eyes of, you know, not following what needed to happen. So they do those psych assessments for kids with autism. When it should be really broken down to, do they have a way to communicate with you? If not, that's the struggle. Is their sensory system in check? Do they need help to regulate themselves, or do they need co-regulation? So a lot of the times these kiddos, you know, need more support to help them regulate throughout the day so that they can manage. So yeah, there is lots of pros and cons to those. And again, it depends on what purpose it's serving for a child and why you would be seeking out a psych ed assessment for them.
Thank you, Christina. I see.
Danny.
Yes.
أربعة سب حفظ بلا مو نعاتن كعدل هابهم يا بليز.
وكنا that's why قبل الله.
Okay.
Yeah, Kevin, iPhone and iPhone 14 حتى لكم مجمرة Kevin. Go ahead and.
Yeah, hi. I actually had a comment. Autism and celiac disease I researched are related, but sometimes I'm hearing that doctors are misdiagnosing the condition, like don't diagnose them both. They just diagnose one thing or more. Research has to be done on ways to diagnose these conditions. And I also wanted to ask a question. It's about from FSCD to PDD. you know about PDD, persons with developmental disabilities. Yeah, I bet you
Yes.
do. Anyway, so I'm a person with disabilities myself, and I advocate for folks also living with disabilities.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I made a process to get into PDD. Was kind of tough, but the ways parents, I just want to let folks here know, if your children as they grow, if they're still disabled and have issues, they should then get referred by a family doctor to an adult psychiatrist and get the papers needed for PDD to accept you immediately. And I also recommend asking your old FSCD worker for papers and documents about the diagnoses and reasons that you were eligible when you were with them.
Okay, so when can you qualify for PDD in your area? Because I think like ours, the process can start as early as 16.
Yeah, me, I did at around age 15 at the Child and Adolescent Mental Health at the Richmond Road Diagnostic and Treatment Center here in Calgary. And it went through successfully.
Nice. So in our area too, so the schools, there's our two high schools that we have in our area. When children have diagnosis within our school system, they actually can help with that process in our area, helping some of the families get to that point to get PDD if that's where they choose to go after they do FSCD. So it is kind of a lengthy process too. In our area, we have McMahon Youth Services that supports families here and individuals.
Great. And one resource I want to let folks know here that may help if you need any help filling out documents, etc., is the Calgary Catholic Immigration Society. If you are in the Calgary zone, you just have to speak to the receptionist and ask for a volunteer interpreter and explain to them your situation.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And iPhone, do you have a question, please?
Hi, yeah, iPhone 14 Pro that I asked question earlier. By the way, my name is Samson. Yeah, the continuation of the question, once they are diagnosed, as you said, it stays forever on Alberta healthcare, right? Does it stay federally or is it just in Alberta itself?
So the thing, it's not something that you walk around with a card though saying that you have autism, right? Like,
of course,
yeah. So I mean, it would be on your health records. Some people don't actually even put it on their health records. Like you don't have to put it on there because it's not something that goes all over the place with you. It's your information to share, whether or not. So, and a lot of families, when their children are young, you know, they do want to let the healthcare professionals know that their child is diagnosed with autism. It's not like attached to your Alberta healthcare number though.
Okay,
do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like they pull up your file. So unless you like let them know,
mention that. Okay.
Yeah, that it's not something that just goes and automatically attaches. They pull up your healthcare and it's there. It's information that you would share.
So does it affect for work related issue then? If you want to apply for a job, does it affect you? Does it show up on the system? Or if you have a government job, does it show up in there that you have a diagnostic in there?
No, you need to share that information with your employer.
Oh, personally, so they don't have to go and dig in to find out things, right?
Nobody should be asking you anything about your background of your health when you go for a job.
Okay.
That is information you should share. But if you have a job within something, so even if you are to work for AHS, if you were to work for Alberta Health Services and you have a job there, and you have maybe a diagnosis of ADHD or autism that would affect your ability to do maybe the task, to do the work, you need to that would be something that you would need to let your employer know. So that way you're fitted into a position that you would best be able to do, right? Like, you wouldn't want to set yourself up for failure either. You want to be able to go to a position of a job and be able to do the best of your abilities. Now, in saying that, you can't be penalized because you have that either. Like, you can't be, oh, because you have autism or you have ADHD that you can't do that, right?
Christina, that's the fear of people, that they don't want to diagnose their kids because when they grow up, they might not find any jobs related to them. So that's the fear that kids or parents don't want to take their parents to, I mean, their kids to diagnose this issue. That's the main problem.
I'm telling you right now, there is so many amazing people in this world who are diagnosed with ADHD, autism, that have some of the most incredible jobs. And yeah, that is a fear. And we need to educate and make sure that we give our children growing up and our young adults, and for those who have been diagnosed at a later age too, the confidence and the advocacy piece to advocate for themselves and to make sure that they are able to, you know, do the job that they want to do, strive to do whatever they can. The name of autism or ADHD shouldn't hold anybody back.
Oh, I hope so. That's the main fear of our culture anyway.
For sure. And again, it's so hard, you know, again, being from a different culture, just the acceptance piece there for so many is probably such a big struggle too. Language barriers is a big one. And then to add a diagnosis on top of that, my heart goes out to them. And all I can say is that there is so many people out there cheering them on. I, for one, am cheering them on all the way because I want to see them fulfill their potential that we know they can do.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, what you mean. Okay, thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I think I have. I think Almaz raised her. Okay, what up, iPhone? Do you have a question? There's no name, sorry. It's just saying iPhone. Almaz raised her hand previously, but I think now it's down. If iPhone don't have questions, and if you don't have more questions for Christina,
I do. I do have asked that question. One more question, because for those who are doing a research and trying might pursue the new technology about merit, and that's something I'm because I don't know, I too are still reading about it. So would you mind to say something about it? And I know it's private.
I'm not very familiar with that treatment just yet. I've only recently heard about it as well. It's not something that we talk about within our organization, those kinds of things. What we have really been talking about lately, Freda, is the IA, the interoception piece with our littles and getting them to be aware of their body. I am going to look into what you're asking about because I do want to read more into it and then consult with our OT that has many more years than I do in the field and see kind of what the idea behind that is and look into it. Is this something that comes up frequently for some of your community?
It's recently because one of the senior lead doctor in Edmonton is from Ethiopia, and he was talking about it. He's very so he it's something new, and many family are asking me about it. And I too, I'm just, doing some research. It's based on technology. But like, as I said, I'm not really, I'm like, it's so new to me as well. And I'm just curious if you do know, because for those with autistic and some it really helped a lot, and some mildly, you know, and so I was just curious about it.
There's so much different information out there, you know, when it comes to supporting individuals with autism and what is the best laid plan to support them. And one thing we need to remember is that we will never take autism away from them, that this is how their brain is, that we may be able to help improve their communication and their sensory needs, those kinds of things. But autism is not something that we can just make disappear. Diets are a huge thing. And I know you guys probably I've talked with Desawet multiple times about, you know, different diets and how they can support children. Different diets can support anybody, not just children with autism, not just children with ADHD. Again, it's all about what we fuel our body with, and you know, the effects of some different foods on a growing body and a growing brain. Again, I know there was a comment earlier about, you know, kids watching way too much TV and the whole virtual autism thing that's now going about. It is true. Our children are spending way too much time on electronics and iPhones and you name it, tablets, iPads, television. That is for sure one thing that is happening. The instant gratification a child can get from the lights flashing, you know, the music that comes from it, is great, but there's no actual real communication piece happening for that child with a communication partner, another human being. So yeah, a lot of things can affect, you know, how we can support our children with autism. And it's the hard thing is that there's so much information out there. You kind of keep getting in, looking at it and whatever else, and you kind of go down a rabbit hole when you are on the internet, looking at different things, because, you know, one thing that might spark you as a family who has a child that you may have concerns about may not be the same as somebody else's, and it can take you kind of down a long road with those kinds of things. I hear you guys' comments, you know, about misdiagnosing and those kinds of things, and it is unfortunate when that happens. But again, in the end, we want to look at how to best support the child. Sometimes diagnosis may be wrong in the fact that the child does have some delays, and are they actually, you know, the autism delays, ASD, is that what it is? It might not be, but will it get that child some supports to help bring them up to maybe being closer to their age range when it comes to developmental delays? That might happen with supports, with a diagnosis. It's hard to say, and I just hope for any of you who are on here tonight with kiddos, with youth, know that there is people out there that want to see everyone succeed and want to support. And I understand that your guys' systems might be a little bit different in Edmonton and Calgary than what we have out here. I know Desawet has said that she talks about us lots out here, and you know, we are grateful that we are able to support so many children in our area, youth as well, young adults, with what we have out there in our small community. I just truly hope that you guys are able to find those kinds of supports in your area, and you guys can get the help that is required for your family.
Thank you so much, Christina. Thank you for your time. I don't think we have any more questions.
Hi.
Okay, hi, sorry.
Hi. So I have one question for Christina. I have a few questions. I have a 7-year-old boy who has been diagnosed with autism for 3 years now. He's been attending PAF program and he's been progressing a lot. But recently when he started grade 1, the teachers said that he was impulsive in the class and misbehaving. And they recommended us, you know, they say that they suspect ADHD. So we took him to the doctor, and the doctor was assessing him. He's not been diagnosed with ADHD yet because we are really hesitant to go that path, because he's going to be put on medication. And we asked about the medication, And I think the medication acts just like a bandage. It doesn't cure ADHD. And that's our main concern. And the teachers and the doctors are really pushing us to put him on medication, but we are refusing that. Is there any consequences that we are going to face because we refuse to put him on medication? We are willing to help him different ways. He's attending speech therapy, behavioral therapy. We have, we're trying to find other ways to help him, but the medication is like out of the topic for us. And they are pushing us to put him on medication, especially the teachers, because he's misbehaving, he's impulsive with the kids. And like, is there any consequences that we are going to face if we we stick to our decision and we don't put him on medication? And one other question I have is, like, there are so many people promoting this Ilonil fiber powder, omega-3, and removing gluten and dairy from their diet is going to cure. Some of them actually promote that is going to cure it, or it's going to make it better. Is there any proven evidence that this is going to help too? This is my question.
Okay, so I'll go back to your first one first about the misbehaving in the school. So my suggestion to you would be going back to the school and asking them, what do they have in place to support your son for the times that he is having outbursts? I know we don't have time to sit here and talk about everything that's kind of going on, but can you just give me a little bit of information on what is he doing when he's misbehaving, as they call it, in school?
So when he is, let's say, having miscommunication with the kid, he's pushing, sometimes hitting, or sometimes, having tantrums. So that's why they're pushing us to put him on medication. But we don't know, like the doctor even said that they are not sure which medication is good for him. It's like he's going to have to go through a mini experimental phase, and I didn't like that. Like, we are going to experiment on his body. There's no medication that is for sure going to help him, and we don't like that. That's why we are no with medication.
Is your son verbal or non-verbal?
He is verbal, but some of his sentences are not clear. He does have issue with expressing himself, but he does understand everything. So the kids might misunderstand him, or he might, have some difficulty with communicating with the kids. And he actually, I feel like that's why he hits, because he cannot say, oh, stop, you're calling me names, or and he doesn't get the jokes. Sometimes the kids joke, but he doesn't. He's very serious. When they try to joke, he thinks that they're bullying him, and he goes with hitting and pushing. And the teacher does not understand him, because I understand him perfectly, but the teachers, they don't understand what he's saying. So the day is done. Once he has argument with the kid, the day is done for him. He's stuck with that emotion. He would say, the teacher is not understanding me, but this is what happened. So I feel he's very struggling in the class, but they are just pushing us to put him on medication instead of trying to figure out what's really happening with the kids.
Well, first off, I want to say good for you, Mom, for listening to your child. The next thing I would do, this would be me, I would be going back to the school. Is there any other ways that your son can be given to communicate with others, such as a augmentative device, to like an iPad, so he can have his messages clearly, like, I need you to stop, you're too close to me. It sounds like he is getting overwhelmed during his day and maybe not able to communicate that, because we know as a child becomes elevated, their words are not there. And so if he's stressed and having difficult times in the classroom, somebody could be yelling, could be sending him, elevating him, and he has no way to express that, to say, like, you know, and it sounds like he's a very to the point kind of kid. Like I say it how it is. And if it's not taken that way, then it's hard for him to express it in another way. So I would be going back to the school asking if he could have breaks built into his day. And that would be breaks for him to re-regulate himself so he can go back into the class so we don't see as many explosions. We need to figure out what's happening and why those explosions are happening. It sounds like it's a communication breakdown. So I would be going back to the school saying, hey, how can we help him communicate better? What can we do here to support that? Because if it's the communication breakdown that's happening, the only thing that he knows right now is to go into full force flight mode. That's what we're seeing is happening. So that's what I would be doing. I'd be going back to the school and saying, hey, sounds like my son is having a difficult time, you know, communicating. And so we're seeing these outbursts happen because what he is really wanting to say is not able to come out. How can we address this? See what the school says. Again, schools don't ever want to go, and I shouldn't say not all of them. It's really hard when they have a class of however many to make changes. But it sounds like something needs to happen for your son in that respect to help him go throughout his day. He may need built-in breaks throughout his day, so we don't see the explosions and we don't see the big tantrums that they call it. If he's able to have a break throughout his day to re-regulate himself and then go back into the class, I bet you he would have more successful days. As far as the whole pushing for medications, I hear you on that. I personally am not an advocate for putting children on medications. There is a time and a place for some children, yes, that do require medication. If there is imbalances, you know, there is reasons behind it. But I would try and exercise every other option that I had before I decided to put my own child on medication. As far as what you've been reading too, you know, there is things that do trigger some more things with ADHD and autism. You know, there is some links and information that, you know, going on a, you know, gluten-free diet may support. Again, it will never make it go away. You cannot cure autism or ADHD by taking food supplements and those kinds of things. Can you minimize some of the things that you see, some of the stims that you see, some of the outbursts that you see? You might be able to. It all depends on how your child or individual responds to the deletion of that food item in their diet. It's no different than, you know, my body. I can sit and eat sugar all day long. If I took sugar out of my diet, my body would probably feel a whole lot better than what it does by eliminating it, right? So it all depends. Lots of people like to try a gluten-free or, you know, those kinds of diets to see if that does make a difference. And they do see a difference in their child. Again, a lot of stomach issues. There is digestion issues that come with autism and ADHD. And again, some foods trigger those reactions and is more, you know, upsetting to some children. Some children react to different food dyes that we all have heard about, you know, food dyes that children react to. So there is lots of different things. Again, I think in your heart, Mama, you know what you to do. And I think you need to try lots of other options first before deciding whether or not you want to try any sort of medications. I agree with you. It is really hard, especially when they are young. They are playing kind of a game of, here's a medication, try this and see if it works. You know, if it does, great. If not, then you kind of go back to the drawing board, and that can be very frustrating too. And again, sometimes not a very good setup for children, like especially young kids. You know, so I really think you should try and maybe see about getting some breaks built in, another way for communication, even if it's like we call them low-tech boards. So it literally just has like some options on it, like I need a minute, I'm not understanding, What's another one? Can you tell me again? Or I need a break. And it can be just as simple as that for him to just say, like, right now, I need a break. And doesn't have to actually say it. He just touches the picture and out he goes to a safe place where he can have some time to himself.
Okay, that's a good question, answer actually. And I want to know what the law says about refusing to put my kid on medication. Is there any law that forces me to put my kid on medication?
No. Medication is 100% your guys' choice. That nobody can tell you you have to put him on medication.
That's a good news. Thank you. That was
the school cannot tell you you have to put him on medication either. So please don't let them tell you that.
And even the doctor, like the doctor is pushing for medication, but we keep refusing. Is there, like, he doesn't have any ways to bring consequences to us if we keep refusing?
A doctor can recommend medications for you to try. He cannot force you to make your child take them.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Can the school refuse him then because of his behavior? Can they do that?
Every child in this province has the right to an education. That is why we have Inclusion Alberta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Every child, it has a right to an education. They cannot deny him an education. And if that's the case, there is the place called Inclusion Alberta, and that is who you phone.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, they need to be able to accommodate these children within the school systems. We need to be able to include them. And sometimes we need to maybe make modifications to their day. Maybe your child requires a break 2 to 3 times a day out of the classroom in a safe place so they can regroup themselves. That does not mean putting them into a room all by themselves and left alone. And these are the questions parents need to ask as well, is like, what does that look like for my child? My child may require a few more things than the other child, and that is okay. And always go in with the willingness to support the school and the school staff as best as you can as a parent, to make some of those things happen, right? Like maybe your child can't go to school for the entire day. There is many children who can't make it through the length of a school day. So maybe your child goes home at 2 o'clock in the afternoon rather than 3. We see that modification happen lots within our small town. Again, I know I speak from where we are rather than where you guys are, and I don't know, but in the end, no child can be denied an education in this province.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
I feel like they're putting they requested an iPad for him, and he has an iPad in the class, but I feel like they're putting him on screen. They're like giving him too much screen time to maybe make it easier for them to deal with the day. Because I asked him and he would say, I was watching iPad. I was watching on my iPad or doing things on my iPad. Did the other kid? And I would ask him, did the other kids did that? He would say, no, they were doing their classworks or, their paperworks. So I feel like they're putting him on too much screen just to manage because he loves and he doesn't misbehave when he has his iPad with him. And that's too much.
Is the iPad was the iPad intended for him to communicate, or was the iPad intended for him to be happy?
I think it was to be happy, not to communicate.
Okay, so if iPad is highly motivating for him, then that would be where I would build that into his day. So you're going to do this, this, and this, and you get 10 minutes of whatever you would like to watch on the iPad. You get this, this, and this done, you might get 10 more minutes on the iPad. There's ways to use things that are highly motivating for our little friends that we can use. Again, I know I just said these kids are getting too much iPad time. However, in this instance, we're having more blowouts in the classroom than we are him being in the classroom, obviously. So let's find a way to make him want to be in that classroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I felt like they're putting him just to make their lives easier, but
Yeah,
if,
and that doesn't work either.
okay.
Yeah,
He
that
does
doesn't
love
work
going
either.
to school. He does love going to school, but the fact that he's been on screen time for a longer time than he should be, it does concerns me, because just like you said, lots of time with the screen does aggravate their behavior. Like it doesn't help with the symptoms, it actually aggravates it. And maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like they're doing it just to keep him sit down and to just have him silent and to go on with their day. I'm not sure if this is really intended to be to help him.
Have you actually asked that question at the school? I would go back and ask them.
I did ask them, and they said it's for schoolwork, but he would actually tell me the teacher allowed me to use like YouTube today, and YouTube is like a no for us.
Oh no.
That's what he would say. And I would ask him, what did you watch? He would tell me what he watched, and I don't like what he watched. He would say, right, those kids who have who have influential videos on YouTube, but it's not educational. It's just like a promoting toys and stuff like that. That's what he likes to watch. And he would tell me, I watched Ryan today, or I watched such and such, and I don't like that. So, but I don't want to be too much. I wouldn't want to be too much stress for them, so that he doesn't, have a bad day. Like if I am too much for them, and they would see him as a stress, right? And they wouldn't be compassionate towards him if I'm always on their throat and ask them to change things, or to, if I complain a lot of the times, they might see him as a stress in the class. So that's why I'm really hesitant to always complain.
Yes, and I hear what you say. You're not the only family that has that thought of like, oh, if I keep going to the school, they're just going to get fed up with me, and they're not going to want to deal with me, and they're going to want to see me as a pain. But in the end, if you go in with the I'm here to help get my son to make it through the day without a tantrum. I want to try other ways to regulate him throughout the day so we don't have these blowouts. So if you go in with some helpful ideas like, hey, how about we look at maybe building in some breaks throughout his day? Maybe he needs to see his daily schedule clear as bell, everything listed for him from the time he walks into the school to the time he gets to go home. Maybe that needs to be listed for him. He needs to see what times of the day that he gets to have maybe something that's more motivating to him, not YouTube, but maybe something else that he enjoys, and he gets to see it throughout the day. If you go in saying, hey, I think this might help my son, can we try it? And see what they say, and if they're like, no, we've already, then so if the answer is no, we do that, then your response to them is how? Tell me how you do that for him in the day. Because they should be able to tell you then exactly how they do that for him in the day. You want to go in with more helpful ways to help the school, help your child. You don't want to go in with your fists ablaze and saying, hey, I'm here and I want some answers because my son needs to be in school. If you go in with a helpful approach saying that you want to work with the school to figure out a solution to help and give them some ideas, see how that goes.
Okay, I'll request that. I have requested to stay one day, like a full day, to see how his day goes. They rejected that request. They said no, because I want to understand how his day is going before because I don't know. I'm not sure those things are happening. I'm just, guessing from what he tells me at home. And when I requested, maybe I can stay one day here or half day just to see for myself what he is doing, how he's behaving, then I might be able to help them. But they totally rejected that request. They said, no, you don't need to be here. Like, we don't allow for the parents to be all day with the class because he might see you and he might, feel he might feel that he can do whatever he wants when you're here. So we don't allow that. I don't know.
Strange, because that, like, me as a parent, I have my own 3 children. I would be like, yeah, well, I'm coming anyway. I'm sorry, I'm coming to see. I want to make things better for my child. If you guys are having problems and concerns, you know, he's hitting, I need to see, I want to see what's happening.
Yeah.
I need to help my child. So I really think if you go back again and say, hey, I'm looking for some ways to support my child within the classroom. What can we do? Work together on how can we make this happen? I really think your boy, just from what you're saying, just needs to see what's happening in his day throughout his day. Again, some of those sensory things, if kids are standing too close or it's too loud, any of those kinds of things that he's not able to let us know, you need to find those things out to see if that is a concern for him. If the classroom gets too loud, does he have an option to have some ear defenders to block out the noise? You know, when it's time to line up for group, is there a spot where he can stand that's not going to be near his friends? Because maybe when his friends get too close, he feels like he's getting like bombarded. So the next thing he's going to do is like, push.
Yeah.
I need you away from me. You're too close to me right now, right? Like there's lots of little things that you might have to look into. Again, I'm not sure with your son if you know some of those things are things that affect him in the classroom. You know, maybe he needs his own spot to be when they do line up, right? So maybe he needs a spot that's marked off for him on the carpet when it's like carpet time or whatever, to show this is your space. Nobody can go into your space. You have your own space. There's lots of little things you can try and do. I think you just need to go back to the school and ask if there's a way that you can work together.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Christina. I know it's been long already. Hopefully in the near future, again, we might invite you again to for a second session.
Wonderful.
Thank you for your time. I think and the South will be next. She will share like her story and her journey to give them like some heads up. It can be regarding food or maybe dealing with the FSCD, if I named it correctly, or any information. She is going to share that. Thank you, Christina. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for the invite, Desiree, and for everyone that is here tonight. Just know that, again, there is so many people out there that want to help and want to help and make things easier, and supporting your children, your youth, your young adults out there. And I'm very honored to be able to have met so many wonderful people along my path. Desiree and her daughter Naomi for sure has a special place with me. And yes, thank you so much. And hopefully I answered some of your questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for
SG.
everything. Okay.
So that's how
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Miss G.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss G. You're very welcome.
See you later, sweetheart.
Okay.
And thank you so much for
Bye.
you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Danny.
Mute and go just how it if you can go ahead and please explain.
Okay, قدم سامري. سامري أبزي تلودني. شما أبزكو بنالوت. Hello, Samri.
I see Samri, but oh no, I see Samhara and Samira.
Samhari zalla. بس قرتي توسخ مسوسخة الكونيرة زنا FSCD مالتيو أب كالغريات نبر. قرتي كمان قرتي فليس بلا حاجة سكاس لزلكم مالتيو. ممكن نبرم ستوري ويس ساعات جزء خدوم مالون كلهم.
Please go ahead and بتقرني extending ورلو.
إيش. سلام يحواتي كلاتكم ماين شميدي سايت بهال أبستغم مطلو وتا أبزي إدسانيو كابغاتكم حموشة ساعات مالتيو قالي أوتيزم زلو علاتني قال شوعات عامات مالتيو تدايغنوس تغورات لكزي أب 2019 دايغنوس تغيرا أب مارش مالتيو مارش 21 تي تريتمنت دجمر كلاغن أب كاب 2017 أبزي 18 مالتيو بمولو كساب حجي تريتمنت جميل الله مالتيو تي قالي فتصم أي تزاربني عنيرا فتصم بقى والحان تزارباي تزاربن دقنا رما كبيد حساب كل سكند سوري عادي والحان تزاربن نيرا دقنا رما كبيد ناي سنسري والنيروا مالتي كم جامب مقبار نحنا زين فلط ونحنا زين سمع كلها أنا مالتيو نساتهم رأي سمع وطما قلعت بمن دسمع نجارات نيرو كم زرب شان إزنا مالتيو دمصونا يتفتو النيرا مجبون كبيرنا مجبو خاص سنسري نيروا مالتيو كم زي بزح نجاري نيرو مالتيو مزح جهن ريو خلنا ساعات عن كبيديو إجزابي يمسكن جن سالانا تيسعري سالانا يبع الجزاي مالتيو يبع الجزاي كلكم بزيادة اتي مور مسوات زخوف لكم أني أب أودات أب والك سلزل خيه بزن حواتي مالتيو عرفت الفاينانشال قلما له كله جن إجزابي يمسكن حنت معلتون كم زون تباهيلو أي فلتنا بزجزا مالتي زبزح حواتي بفاينانشال بشجر الله بصوتان بزح سبيزات أفعله لمن تاي ستريتمنت بير لخوي والحمد لله تزي ولو جلون بزحي بحالي مالتيو بقوم يزازر بالعليا قالنا قتي كلمة دايجونس مزبارة مالتيو نحنا والحمد فلت أي نجرنا ولا بعدون سمعي فلتني نيرة كابزن حواتي أبزل الوقت عدوجن أرتيراتها مالتيو بق هذا اللي هلب خنجبركينا ناوم زي تزارب زلا أو هوسبيتال كن وسطينا قليلاتني أوكي ليا لكن أنا شو نقدر يرد إنني نيرو هوسبيتال كيرنا مالتيو أو هوسبيتال ناتفليز بلنا يزون قلعتنا disability therapy لو زي إن شرح له زحفتي زخت زاربكم بس حد زي كونسي كلمنا بزي إن محلاف قال له بوتات خدو مالتيو كيرنا رأينا مجمرة ناب دكتورنا سيدنا يحلفون أطوارات مالتيو بقى إنه it's okay زي سئل كايو زي سبويلي بقى حنقا قايقنا مليلو مليسنا دقنا كال اكزي appointment جيرا ناقو مالتيو دقنا خيدنا سيلان إن دزارباز الله أزبط عن حنقا قصل زلو أي ناقومي زيد لي طبعا تقبر زلا قلب لنا مالتيو أوكي حلا نساتن نحنا نتاي قبر الله نتاي سرح الله ونحن تأفلت أي نبرنا مور بتصعر لنا جن مسنين انتي كان زخون زلو نجاراتون إحنا مسبعي مالتي والحمد نفلت النيرنا رحرجن يحلفنا أنا لعب ختمة كبعب ختمة إتي ناي سبيشاليست زمت مالتي نسو بحرش الشوار حماتي ستيل جن شد الشوار حنا تتصدنا خلنا أبصر ممكن تجزي خيدا أنا في هوسبيتال ترى بتقبر نيرا كن يروم مجبس لازم تبلع لازم نبرة زوالي كبيد ناي سنساري لازم نبرة كم يجرى نت مجبس تنكفو كم يجرى تبلع كم يجرى كافتي نحنا حجي أنا حجي كم زي أبزق زي تزيت أتون نيرا بزحمة جات زين كاس نيراسي أبكار زرع هو سبس انت عينت سدنتي انت عينت أوفر سنسرع زي ونقول خاتم السلامتي وتزرع وهم حيلي سنهم نقيصهم تحيل زرع خاصي بتعمل كبيديو كم عينت سلزنا برت قالي مالتيو تعشموني بقى قنص أوري كألنا نيرنا أنا تي بحلف نعم كتر إيان كلا تي كم زي لخت حزن كلا ساتن لميدونين كم زي لخت حزن كلا جن يبل زارب نيران إنه يسوكي قليلا نبلان جنا جن دايغنوس أنت يخونا اللون عين فلتني نيرنا مالتيو فاينال جن كوينو متينا خبعة ختمة متينا قلا مالتيو ريوا قلا بقى موقالكم كم زي لا وزم على لو قلا مسبلنا بقى مالت كبيديو كما دخينا أنا حج خريقة كله قفت جزيت مالتيو بقى نخبيديو انتهى أوتيزم كان تاي مالتيو قالنا خاني كفالي قصي يبلان دبت الله مثلني بشوك ماله استوى لي سمعنا لهم
أول سمعك لنا أول سمعك لنا
اوكي
ثانك يو
ايوه كم التفلي قصوني يبلان تحي مالتي دا اوتيزم لنا قرتي تجاني انا مالتي ولا تون نفسنا نقاط صوري كالنا جزا متينا نعنا لكم زولكم عمات كوميونيتي امزلونا نشي قطر سلازغونا مالتي بزو حاجز غيرهم لنا نون جزا متينا ون اي صنحكون انا اب يوتيوب اتي مالتي انتي اوتيزم قليله ከምዚ ሕጂ ኦቲዝም ከይበዝሖ ከሎ እንደገና እውን ኣብዝና ሃናኒ ሓበሻ ማለት እዩ ወፂና ኣዌርነስ ዘይገበርና ገለ ከይበዝሖ ከሎ ኣነ ቢሎ ማለት እዩ ኣድሓነት ዝብል ምስ ረኣኹ ብታሕቲ በቃ ብዛዕባ ኦቲዝም ግን መግቢ ዘለዎ ገለ ትዛረብ ማለት እዩ ብትግርኛ ሕዳ ትብል ዘላ መግቢ ከዓ ይቕይሮም ገለ የለ ማለት እዩ ቀጥታ ኣነ ኣብቲ ምልክት ኣብ ገዛይ ስለ ዘሎ ማለት እዩ ናብቲ መግቢ እየ ኣትየ ኣነ ኣብቲ መግቢ እቲ ፀባ ጠቕላላ ካብዚ ገዛ ውፅኢናዮ ጉሒፍናዮ ናብ መግቢ ግን ግሉተን ፍሪ እዚ ዴሪ ፍሪ ማለት እዩ ኣቲና እቲ ኣልመንድ ፀባ ሳንፍላወር ፍሪ ሶይ ፍሪ ከምኡ እቲ ፀባ ግን ክትለምደለይ ኣይከኣለትን ሽዑ ግዜ ኣነ ሞር ስትረስ ስለ ዝነበረኒ ዋላት ነገርታት እውን ሃንድል ክገብሮ ይከኣልኩን ብስሪንጋ ገይረ ምስ ሓፍተይ ኢና ነስትያ ነርና ማለት እዩ ሰብኣይ ኣብ ዝኸደሉ እውን ስለ ድጭናቕ ስለ ዝነበረ ሰብኣይ ውፃእ ኣብ ዝበለሉ ብስሪንጋ ገይረ እንዳስተኹ እንዳልመድኩ ሓይሉ እውን ነይርዎ ኢና ሽዑ ግዜ ክኸውን ኣይግብኦኒ ግን ኣይርድአንን ነይሩ ዝኾነ ነገር የስትያ መግቢ እውን ጀሚረላ እቲ ፓስታ ግሉተን ፍሪ ቀይረላ ማለት እዩ ዕፉን ዘይብሉ ገለ ማለት እዩ እታ ናታ ስጎ ከምታ ትፈትዋ ኩኪ ድማ ባዕለይ ኣብ ዩቱብ እንዳረኣሁ ባዕለይ ኣብ ገዛ ይሰርሓላ ገለ ከምኡ እንዳገበርኩ ማለት እዩ ነንእሽተይ መግቢ ነንእሽተይ ኩሉ እቲ ነፍሳት ዝነበረ ስጋ ናይ ነፍሳ ብፀባ ብገለ ተነፊሑ ዝነበረ ሰውነታ ብካልእ መግብታት ብምሉኡ ዓፅሚያ ተሪፋ ማለት ኩሉ ዕፅምታ ናይ ነፍሳ ወፂ ብጥሜት ማለት እዩ ድሓር ግን እንዳበልዐት ነንእሽተይ ሸውሃታ እንዳተኸፈተ እውን ማዕናጣ ኣነ ናይ ማዕናጡ ፀገም እየ ዝብሎ በዚ ኣጋጣሚ ኣሕዋትይ ኣይተሓዙለይ ዋላ ኣብዚ ፔጅ ዶኳትር ተለኹም የቕሬታ ግበሩለይ ኦቲዝም ኣነ ናይ ርእሲ ሕማማ የብሎኒ ናይ ማዕናጡ ፀገም እየ ዝብሎ ሽዑ ነንእሽተይ ክትበልዕ ምጀመረት ማለት እዩ ኣብ ክልተ ቅነ ካብ ኣፋ ወፂ ዘይፈልጥ ካብ ኣፋ ከቢድ ድምፂ ነይሩ ሙሉእ መዓልቲ ካብ ሳሎን ናብ ሳሎን ምንጣር ፓርኬታታት ጌርካ ተለብዘን ምሕቃኽ ገለ ኮሚታት ነይርዋ እቲ ሂወት ናታ ማለት እዩ እቲ ሃይፐር ምኳን እንዳዝሓለ ሙሉእ ብሙሉእ ዘይኮነ ግን እንዳዝሓለ መፅያ እንደገና ድማኒ እቲ ዘረባ ድማኒ ሓንቲ ወርድ ማለት እዩ ማማ እዚ ሰሚዕና ንፈልጥና ነርና ኣብ ክልተ ቅነ እዩ ዝተቐይሩ ማማ ሽዑ ቆቁርተይ እንዳበልዐት ምስ ከደት ኣብ 6 ወርሕና ግን ቆፀራ ነይሩና ናብ ዓቢ ከተማ ናብቲ ዶክተር ማለት እዩ ሕስኩማ መፅ ኢልና ነይሩ ሽዑ ኣብቲ ኦፊስ ከለና እቲ ዶክተር እንዳተፀበናዮ ከለና ናይ ኣጋጣሚ ማለት እያ ሹዝ ኦን ክልተ ቃል ተዛሪባ ሹዝ ኦን ምስ በለት ዋ ንኣሙ ዳ ከምዚ ዶ ክትዛረብ ሰሚዐ እያ ገለ ኢለና እቲ ዶክተር እወ ከምዚ ጀሚራላ ሓንቲ ቃል እያ ትብል ነይራ ማማ ዋ ሞዝ ዳ እሞ ከመይ ገይሩ ከምዚ ለውጢ ርእዩ ማ ስለምንታይ እዛ ጓለይስ ብከምዚ ብስና እያ ከምዚ ምሻለኪ ከምዚ ሰንሰሪ ከምዚ ትብለኩም ብፀንሐት ሰንሰር ነፍሶም ቀጥቀጥ እዩ ዝብል ከምዚ ሓይሊ ነይሩ እዩ ብጣዕሚ ማለት እዩ ከምዚ ፕሬሸር እዩ ዝገብራ ነቲ ሰውነታ እጂ ካብ ምንታይ ዳ ከምዚ መፅኡ ምስ በለና እዚ ግሉተን ፍሪ ዴሪ ፍሪ ጀሚርና ኣለና ፕላስ ድማ ኦሊቭ ኦይል እንደገና ፊሽ ኦይል ጀሚርና ኣለና ገሌልናዮ ኢሊኒን ከዓ ጀሚርና ኣላ ገሌልናዮ ኩለንተን መድሃኒት ግን ምሳይ መድሃኒት ክብሎ ይክእልኒ ግን ሒዝናየን ከና ማለት እዩ ርእይዎ ገለ በቃ እስኻትኩም ዘ ቤስት ፋም በቃ ኣነ ከምኡ ርኢ ይፈልጥን ናፃ ኮይኑ ተዛረበና ካብዞም ካብ ኤድሰን ጀሚሩ እቲ ዶክተር ናይ ኤድሰን ከም ዝበልኩኹም እዩ ባዕልካ ፋይት ተዘይጌርካ ካብ ነገር ወይ ከዓ እሳተን ባዕለን ተዘይ ነፍዓልና ነይራን ዘናል ተዘይ ሕግዛና ነይራን ሲ ጓለይሲ ኣብ ዝበፅሓቶ ዘላ ደረጃ እውን ናይ ምስ በፅሐትን ነይራ ኖ ወርሓንቲ የለን ኢሊ ስለ ዝመለሰና ማለት እየ ኣብቲ ናይ ዓበ ከተማ ምስከድና ግን ብጣዕሚ ተሓጒሱ ማለት በሉ ዓቕሚ እንድሕር ኣለኩም ግሉተን ፍሪ እዚ ዳይት ኩሉ ዘበለ ብጣዕሚ ዘቤስት ንዕኦም ብጣዕሚ ፅቡቅ እዩ ገለ ኢልና ማለት እዩ ድሓር ግን ኣብ ናይ ርሓነት ስለ ዝሰማዕኩ ማለት እዩ እዚ ቫክሲን ከመይ ገለ ምስ በልናዮ ብዛዕባኡ ክዛረብ ኣነ ኣላ ወዳይ ኩንኩን ኢሉ በቃ ኣይመለሰልናን ማለት እዩ በቲ ናይ ግሉተን ፍሪ ዴሪ ፍሪ ግን ብኡ ብጣዕሚ ሳፖርት ገይሩና እቲ ኦሊቭ ኦይል እቲ ኢሊኒየን ገለመለ ብምሉእ እዚ ብምሉእ ደጊፍዎ ማለት እዩ ብጣዕሚ ፅቡቅ ገለ ኢሉና እታ ኢሊኒየን ቁርተይ እንታይ ኢሉና ብመግቢ ከም በዓል በናና ዱባ ገለመለ ጌርኩም ተተክእኹሞ ሞር ፅቡቅ ካብ ፓውደር ብኹም ተተካእኹሞ ብጣዕሚ ፅቡቅ ገለ ኢልና ማለት እዩ ኦኬ ኢልና ሰሚዕናዮ ሽዑ ተመሊስና ማለት ኩሉ ነገራት ገለ ምስ ረኣዮ ተመሊስና ድሓር ትቕፅል እቲ ሪዛልት ፅቡቅ እንዳመፀት መፅያ እቲ ቫኪዩም ክገብር ከለኹ ገዛዴ ገለ ክገብር ከለኹ እዝና ትሕዞ ዝነበረ ዝርብሻ ዝነበረ ወይ ከዓ ብሓደ ኩርናዕ ኮይና እዝና ትሕዞ ዝነበረ ንሱ ጠቕላላ እንዳሃሰሰ ኸይዱ ማለት እዩ እንዳሃሰሰ ኸይዱ أكاد طبيعة دا بلت دا كان زيد لطبيعة كن رئي الله جميرا كم زكدان مبلع عجف أفو كدان السنسري سلازلوها مالتيو كومون دا قبرت مزجمرة دما سوخا كومون دا تأفق خير بوزح نقر ساريحنا الله مالتيو أم بمقاقبا دما زي حاسبنا يو مور تخبدان دا تصري خير كله مور أمناي تشكن كتبلع جميرا أبقزا سرحانا تشكن لاقيت بزعا كمزي almond flour جيرة حنتي إجيرة كم سرحالا نيشتي olive oil جيرة مالتيو إنجرا ومكتبل عليه جميرة إنجرا أفن كينوان قبل لا بجزا كم مكتبل جميرة نقرات لا تمهر كي قبل حوات كاسلة تخيل كم جروب على النبع أبو ختمة كم من دقبركم مالتيو نقولي إجزاوية ريمسكن أبز درجة زد صحية أبزاني حنت حفتي مريم شو ما حتي تانيرة سلسة عمت تيرابي جيرنا لاسي طبوق تعشم بلا عندنا نكون وسخ دلينا أدي أنا مريم حافتي حنت قبل زدلي ناي بارنت ناي سدران نحنا منفعتون أقداسيو أقداس قبل كله ترابي تراي نتوما علق أقول يكونه ترابي بتعمل طبوق يمكن ترابي تراي زي أول حنت أخلتي كونتن بمجبن وتقلعة أوتيزم زلوا قلعة ويكا ADHD زلوا قلعة أقول أخلتي ساعات إن حر زيدك أسن أقول ناي استمت أنا مجبي إذا جلوتين مالتي جلوتين كم كله خط رأي إذا بشكوتات قال ما لقيت رأي كونت حملتات كأسبوع ولا حملتات مالتيو إن حر زي وسادة نقرات ممكن ما حيش أي كأنيو مالتي ترابي رئيسي وكل أي كورن بزي كات أمي مالتيو مورا جزاس اللي تسعرنا لا ما ينبعلوسي تفلي ما يتستي في جواترات ستي نتي ديتوكس جبرا من إنتام مالتيو كان تقولكم دماتي إلينين نحنا قديفنا ينا كامل ميلكنا أتينا نيرنا كامل ميلك نقلت تعمد كأمريكا ديزرت فارم نقلت تعمد فروزن كوين متسنا نيرو ستيات تاب تعمي نسدو ما نمنتي حجيزنا نحنا ريوي بقى أتا نيروان دي أي كونتاكت جين التفا بقى خمسي إن شاء الله خمسي نورمال قلعة عين غافتت إلى المتكا كامل ميلك متجمر ناي نتن قالوا تحواتي مسايز ما قلازنا رابعة بختما إرمنشن مالت نعم كأني أبزرب حجيزوان زربا حنسا اوكي جست تيكل نجي يقريتا ابكم حجيزون ابزربا مدقام حجيزون بتعمل تارا لو تي عقمته ترغيب مالتي فاينانشال بتعمل كفيديو ابولتن فري ابديري تاعتو خلها اللي جنزبي حتى كان يجن نتو ما قول عد كباب اما ابكدان ابجنا ملي انفست مغارت جنزب افتي استعنهم افتي اما قاقبا انفست قبرنا يحيش بالانا كم تمكري مالتي حجي اكزابير مسجن قالنا كم ذا زراخو محد مزامن راح تزارب بتصنحت نيشتي هاي مجيز بلتا مالتيو بيرفكت اتزارب ناي زربا والحال تصقميه بالله نكمون مسفرين بتصقم نيروا تزارب مالتيو نسو دماني نعفاتكمون او بنفيت تاشمو كاب FSCD انتان كترخبوه مالتيو انت اشمو له جروب كونكا جيرلز جروب زبحالالو بويز جروب زبحالالو مالتيو نسو دماني FSCD ابروف كتبحالالك زوز عزم دقنا ناي اوتيزم زلوهم مالتيو كمزي محازوت قلمله اي نخغوروس بتعمي يخبدومي كم يعني راغوالي مالتيو حجكن اكزابير يمسجن ابتمرتا بتعمي فريندلي ناي برايفت اتمهار برايفت كبلكم كله كمز ناي تتصقمكم زم دقنا قال زي كونه افت نورمال قلعد زمهاروا برايفت ناي تينايا متوينا مخنيات دماني امناي كوتليك ياتمهار نيرا امناي كوتليك كلتا عمت نو حنت عمت ملئتي بتعمل صبو زغونه تاشمي نيرون كم زازراهم مازي امسجي كتن اوتي قلمل نيرونو دحرقن كورونا قلم سمعتي باجت كم منقست مالتي هربو يكالون اب كينغارن كنا مزغبا مزدلنا مالتيو مو بقى كم تناي قدن تاشو مسله زيبلنا كلاس 3 تماريهم انتي ممهرالا قريت ممهرالا ننا ام طرايكن تحجز جن مو اب سنسري بزمصا زلكت بالكلا نلعلي انتي مو انتي كنقبر نخل مو حنت نقبركم اي نخلينا قلم مسبلت مالتيو اتا انا ابجيزت نتمرت زطفو نتمرت مهار زحسبكو قال قبل زحسبكو سبعين سبيت مالتيو خلتينا دابل سرح ندا سرحنا نقولنا انفست جيرنا لا جنزب مالتي انا برايفت اتينايا مالتيو برايفت اتي امس نورمال قلعتي اتمهار كل تناتا نطبون نخطامنو نخطحقسو ابزي كسدلكم يخلي كل تصحف على مهاران لعلتي سعينت باتا بملؤ ولا فتناي كل كل ساعتون ناي تمرت بايبل اللوم ولا فتناي بايبل ديو ام ناي قال اكزابير يمسكن والناس كم زناتنا نحن رخيبنا يزلنا كمون كلاتكم أبزلكم الصدرة كم تخونون أم 100% شورة مالت سلامنتاي ندحر ندقنا بعلنا ندحر تعيرنا لهم ندحر إنفست ندحر جيرنا لهم ندحر كأني كاسب ندحر زي هذا أنا يوم زيهم زحبوا قلعت هيكونون زيهم بتعمي نايتهم رأس زلوا قلعت مستوى نورمال قلعت كتاب بلو خلقها سماين مدرن يوم اتحانت نايزيهم تصاقمهم اتا فريند نخقبرو بتعمي تخابدهم اتا فريند نمقبار دما كم زوالكوهم وي كم زحج فريتا حفتيتو مهارو زلات مرتي مالتي خم بعد نساتن اتناي رسبايت وهابو فريتا اوكي كم زتخلت تخون بيسنع اسكاني نزوم دقنا كمي جيرنا وي كاني ابعد غتا ما نسخاتكم كلاتكم تم حابشة مالتي وزلهم كم زلكم قلعت كلاتنا ديتات بوش تراخيبكن ابز بارك قال زخونه بوتا وي كاني كان بعل زداني الحاونا مالتيو بوتا قال قبرول كنمش كم يجيرون فريندي خوينهم كأن نحدهم جنتل كوينا نتصاوتو كم يجيرون كنا نحدهم قصنا توابو كاني يزاربو كاني فريتان دحر بفولونتر نحكم مرحتكن مالتيو بتعمي عبلو تخترع اخني اخواتي سلامنتاي اوتيزم انا بناتي الرادة يقرب لي اوتيزم ناي معنا تصقمي ات معن كل شيء عندحر معن حاوي اترأس خاي حاوي انحت معنا تازي حاوي جن ثيرابي تراي والحنت حجوزه ما يكلني ثيرابي تراي والحنت قالي ثيرابي تراي تتهونيها الله أبزي حواتي مليان فلبين الله باكستان الله تعد الله حواتي كم 4 قلعت قال أوتيزم زلوا مالتيو قالي كري آخر بتعمل يجرم عين مالت أنت يجير كلا دز بلانين gluten free dairy free بلان مالتيو يجرم عين بتعمل قلنا نجرت قل أتونا الله صحيح كابن أتياتو زلا حنت فلبيني أتياتو نساها أني عبلو طريقة مالتيو إذا أبشو عتمع التيك الكلو تصبولكم حجي مع تهو الشين جميرو مالت ناس gluten free dairy فري متجمرة مالتيو مرحو لكم كاخ بنسلكم يقنا أنا حنت خبلا زغل نظام صدرها مالتيو كم زي بعال بزي دانيال شمو زحونا مالتيو ولا عازي يقولكم نعنا نكملتنا نحجز كم زي لو مستوى جوس زلوا نحنا كانوا نحجزهم يزبل ما نم جزانا قاشنا عدينا مجمرة دكنا بعلنا ريسبكت نحر زي قبرنا يوم ما نمسمع ريسبكت قبرنا لنا كنت صبية بلنا دكنا خنحابهم يبلنا او انت خوين دا زي زارة قالت لنا بقى سوكي دحر زي دلنا يقن الزارة مالتيو نو بقى سلشو خوين قاليلكا تمتبل ينو قل كتعلل دالي 5 سب بونك سات دالي 5 سب موبايل هيبكا نورد خويكا تابلت هيبكا تتصقعو خلقا it's not fair يزبلا انا ازخا كابزن حواتي زناي اوتي ناي سبيتش كندي نغرا سلازتو مهاركو مالتيو ولا تخامان كمي غير كانت تقولعا مغبت المودو كمي غير كانت تقولعا خاني انت اشو متغبرو مالتيو زي بالانس تمرو بالي بايك تبليا قدم حجي بايك يتبلني يعني راه بالانس ناي نفسها اي نبران مالتيو تفرح تودق غلا يعني راه بايك كمي غير كاتبلو نتقولعا بايك ملو سب كتبلو خن زي بالكا نحنا برخص لنا امات نشتي قد اصلا زكون عندنا مجمره بعلن انهرنا بعلن مسمهاره مالتيو نتو ما قلعت ميك هابي نكونوا انتان نشتي بسؤلوا مسرحين لايسنس ناي بايتشي وانهم كل شعب قال لي I have license بايكات كل شعب مالتيو كومون جيرونهم حجي نسو كمي جيرهم سيفتي قا زبلت زعبيتا سيفتي مالتيو دك ابز اف دغنا يغزانات صاوتاموني زقونه سب نعني الوان تعباي فصوم يتخيدنا سوري مامي سترينجر عيلا تزاربني دغنا دماني بايك كتبل كلها بحد انغولنا بحد انغولو انت زي كوينو بمنم تامر صرقا سغيره ايتفلطه እዚ ኮይኑ ዘሎ ግን እዚ ክልተ ዓመት ይኹም እዚ ኮይኑ ዘሎ እቲ ቅድሚኡ ዝነበረ ግን ብጣዕሚ ውሽጠይ ጉዳይ ነይሩ ወይዛ ጓለይሲ ማዓስያ ብሽክለታ ክትብል ወይዛ ጓለይሲ ማዓስ ይጭንቕ ነይረ ሕጂ ኣነኹም ወላዲት ክብለኩም ዝኽእል ኩላትኩም ኣብ ዘለኹም ኣብ ሰብኡትኩም ኣንስትኹም ኣሕዋትይ ኣብ ዘለኹም ወድና ንክንዛረብ ዘይኮና ክንህወኽ ዘለና ከመይ ገይሩ نفسه كيلو شقاق شينو كدانو بعلو يقبر كمي يجرو اتي ناتو شارنيرا يعصو تاقال تخينا قوبو كمي يجرا براش تقبر كمي يجرا خدانات تغير كمي يجرا جامعة تقبر بزيتي كيت كل نجار كمي يجرم كانت مقبي تصبو يرم لهم دولنا كمي يجرم نفسهم مفولتو بعبيو مالتي نفسهم مفولتونا كم زين على خمس عرزلنا بري عفت الزربا ومونوني يمتي يتزاربا زمور كنت قرالهم كلنا زمور كأي يمتي تي تيرابي دماني جزانا كمت أخلو واتن ناي تيرابي ويكا إحنا نبقومكم قدوم كلنا عايزين نخدم سلازخنا قطر سلازخنا أو عبا خطا ما عند حرمت يومنا أنا بحاجة حفتي يستعذب وحفتي على تني محزاي مالته بزي إدمنتون قد أنقيده تا نايت ثيرابي أو صنيحة تقول عن تميلو داخل مالته أكندي ددحريو خيدا كام داون جيرا قفا بلا أتزلو وساعات أكندي تقوملو كيف تقوملو ساعة أوكي بقى حنكم تسألني قليلا مالتيس كوفي لا تتصبح تا محزاي ماني بس إيش بقى شيء very nice بتعمل مشكلة يا قالني انت تقبر لخيلي انت تقبر انا قلت درق اسبوع كيف كمزي اتجنزب كفليتن سلاز فولطه مالتي انا تقبر لخيلي يا واتمو انت قبريت دي صحفتي بقى كمزي اتقبر الساين قبر لا تخيت لاني كمز بحال نقر لاني لا نعا نتا ناي سبيتش سوري انا حفتي ولا اوتيزم مالاتني كاب كمز ختما امسي نقالي كمز جيران يكونن سبيتش ويكا اوتي كمزي يكونن جيران زقبر على كمزن حزي تقبر نحكم اذا حفتي بعلي مالتيو إذا حطيت حماعت سلة صبو سلة زي تسمع عزول إيجنس خنكيرنا إليها بتعمل فرحة مالتيو أوكي قليلة تقطع بتعمل فرحة لكن أوكي قليلة ساين جرها لجنة كاب أوتي عن تصبحيتو نجنتهم إيجنس دويلو ملا بقى يتحجز كنديها قليلة ما وأنا يتحجزكون كان زي لها أنا تزاركون حفتي تزاريبات اللي قليلة إيجنس غيرو ملا حجب تعمل صبو الله مالتي كل شيء تومناي ترى موت كله 24 ساعة كوفز بلو دقنا نحنا انا مصوم 24 ساعه كوف نبل ايجنسي ويكتوم ايجنسي موصنا كله تناي اوالد مالتيو نحاده ساعه ويك ساعه فرعنت ودنا كمور اخلو نحنا كوف كنبل كنكل لنا مسح كنقبر يبلنا قال خنحز يبلنا من الباش شعو غزي كما تاخلوا توم قالوا قلعت لونا ويا بيزمنت دي ويا حد كلاس زلنا جزاها كم جزانا مالتي زلنا شعو نشع مالتي تيفن ولا علم تيبو ولعكا كوفته بلوم نتوم قالوت قلعت نحنا قن نت تتسقيمو زلو ودنا كم غحاف كندربي يبلنا مسأ اوكي سوكي نو قومز بحال نغير يلا مسأن كوفينا انتي غبرالو مالوا انتي كغبرو لا انا لك اخم اتنكو غبرو بنتانسي انتي غيرنا با انتي كانا حاتن اتي شغرون زوع زلو انتي تغوركو انتي يمسلنا كنحاتت مبت لنا انا بزي احد رازل السنتن تراي متين تربنايز غبرالو والحانت واقع يبلو نحنا خاكم ولدي او خوفيلنا مسأن انتي كنفبر كم زلنا كنفلت كنكل علينا مالتيو بقى كاله زبلي يبلين ترى انا حدا راي زبل كابسه بايتعبوهم بقى زيهم بتعمي كبرات زقون قلعتهم زلونا ناي صباح دكاتر ناي صباح حلفتي ناي صباح نرس فانا دقيم زلونا مورالنا هبوم سابورتنا هبوم كنت حفتي زولتكم مالتي قدمي انا صيحت زارب زنبرت ADHD زنبره بوبا بتعمي ابيز تجبرت قول عاني راه كساب حجتنا يبوا ابيز جبر زنبره كساب حجي ايترسعونيا نايدي اسابورت خا حساب حجي ايترسعونيا سلمنتاي دقنا حنسا كمتم نورمال قلعت هيكونون اندحر حنسا تزاربنا يا مزربه ابرؤسهم يستاك زغبر وعلم حاديرهم او مامي كم زتغبرن نيرك او دادي كم زتغبرن نيركا ان كلكم موني بليز دقنا بغنزب كوين دي بغلو خينو انفست مغبرولم دغنا دما نحنا خاني منفعت عينو ورداني خمس سدرات غدا اخا زكون نغير كتريو ولون كلخات غدا اخا جن كنم صوم كلنا ني اغزابير ازي حشن يكوننا لنا مسني ايمص انا يمن اغزابير زهابنا تقبلنا لنا بت اغزابير زهابنا خاني تمسغني لنا انقع كلته دربا يكون قال يا خاتبلينو ابز غوربيتنا ما حزا قالي مالتي بتي كانسر نيروا بتي اوتيزم نيروا كم متفلع بتعمل كبيديو كم زخ اسلو زلو يحواتي درب حمام مسلو زلو نتوما قلعت كامور توم دولو قلعتهم توم علاتا ناقالي من اسال لاتا كم زحيل ندحري لاتا نعاي زوصنتا نشتي يقصعنا سلمنتاي مور سابورت نتحنت تقبرا خمزلاني نقطين كفلين يبلينجن مور كا سابورت نتي اخذ ديالو مور سيلف كونفيدنس كتكبر منتان بتمرتون سيلف كونفيدنس كيراق مهار منتان نغو دما كيت كلا زاغالي امي بقى كل نجر تقبرو زلو ابتمرتي ينقرا بقى فوكس كتقبر لكي كم زخ تقبر لكي اندابو كسخ صدقتي اخي قال اندابو لكي السدخ بجزا سلمتاي اسال سلتراي سلازغونت كاريتا خالاتا باكستاناويت مالتيو كلر زلوا مالتيو سنتراي سلازغونا مامي نمنتاي تراي انا خمس جلس لتبلن مالتي نو كلنا حدا سباتينا اذا زربا زي اخي تدغميا سلازي نو حجن اغزابير يمسغن ابمرت زو على تقولو تزاره كم نورمال قلعه بسكول باسكيت كلا خبز جزا اندحر دمص ربشوما توم علو كاب كالوت قلعو زموصو عبيت لو افter high school زمهارو بيت مرتي high school جميرا كاب حدا بري سكول جميرهم high school سلازو دو high school مسا سلازو قول مالتيوم السابق الميت جرانا أمالتيو يربوش مامي كم زربشني لا تنبغ قدامي التخيدة شلا لا يبغى تقول نزنا جرزي كم زربش أصلا زلص بتقدمي باقبري عيليا أوكي لا تني بقدمي تسكن دقنا دماني تمجمر الجمهور المعات دماني نيجت أرانا كافي بوتاس لزلنا حرق العمالتيو كم زي فاني نجر غير لا تقول عمالتي قلنا إحنا تقول عقيفلتنا إحنا ADHD إن هو تقول قل بقى نعاس ميك حقصت تكون من أنا نقمت النورمال قلعة كم زاق على نورمال جير زوز ده كم نورمال قلعة جير تريد جير نعمو نتن مهارنا أنت بليز كم زغين قات من لوموني ديسكاس نقبر مزو قلعة تبهيلو مالتيو ننامي وكم جيريدو حق تزاري بتقلعة سوري لوان نامي حقصت قينا أنت إذا حجنايت ولادي تقداسنتون أقداسي أخذلكم إليه زم دقنا وعين زحل المايمون زي فلطو كلاتهم أي فلطون يوم قالي حجة أفليت زي سلسة عمت مالتيو وعي كله سيلهم حتصو سلام تاي في لا يقولون يتبون تنفسهم أي سمعوني أو كنت كم زلنا السوق المهرم كم زلنا نسوق أنت أيو مسنا أوتي تأساس رأي مالتيو كسب أوتي نركب أوتي تراك نصبيه بلنا نظام ثيرابي تراك نصبيه بلنا أب يوتيوب أتكمون بعضهم كم بعل أنا اللي هو حنت حفتي ونا لا سان رايش ما نعاون كلا ليكمين الساونا لا أستيرش ما ون حفتي عدلا كم كلا ليكمي كمونا لحمام ونا يقول صنيم تحمي ممكن زلوا أيفولت أنيوم ولا يحجي زاوية مزجن الثلاث عامات كابت مرتي تحاني ما كابت مرتي حايم اللغة بلن يدولالنا مخيدنا بيك الجبرة مالتي أنا جن حامي ما خلا ترنجس طعمي أبكرنا تتسجع عويكا أبعارة تركيسة حماما أيتجلس يعني را إذا أبينا يكونوا كلهم أوتيزم قلت حمامهم أيقول صنيم إذا أني سبرايز كونكم يبودون تراجن كم يجي رب حمامهم بقول صخم زلهم كأني إزي تايك جبري أنا نقول لاتكم كأني كمان لعلي أنا بروفيشنال أيكونكم دكتور أيكونكم جن كابتن كوري كل النجار كابز حلف كويس علكم زلخو مدبكم جبرينا حج فاكيشن وتسألنا مس أنا ناي أوبشنال ثيرابي نسخة أني كمو نزلنا إدمنتن حواتي عديمة لازم بزح مبرس لزهادتن كم زبورو ودخ ما بجزا جله كل مفتحاتهم من تان عاقاني إنفايت كجبرة مسيا كل نجار كنقرأكم مالتيو دقوكم أنت تجبروا أنت تجبروا خمسة لكم أبجيزة خمسة أنت تجبروا خمسة لكم كتحجزكم بالعين مالتيو بقى بريلكم كونتس فاجبه تي كل جن ما جبتات اللي حرك الجمهور اللي حرد ليهم جن بمولو إذا أنا بجزاز تقوموا كم تجبروا تدخليهم كامل ملك الجمهور اللي حرد ليهم دما desert farm in أمريكا مالتيو سوز بلد نسودماني كلات كنا بزلخ إن نحركن تلاليا كيت بلا وتيهن هاي تبع هلا بليز حواتي معاري هاي تبع هاي الكن جروب كن 4 سب بتعم كوري تتصبع حجة عند عند الشرفي زلو مالتيو كم شرفو مالتي 200 سنة 4 لنا 270 نقفل نيرنا إحنا نس 4 سب شاش دشان مقال نيرنا أنا أوردر جبرو 3 ساعات مالتيو ناي أمازون تمالا لستحواتي زنوبور شو عجزي يسدل للنيران تنحواتي مالتيو حجة بوردر فيس لز خبرنا إنا بقاريت نايمبر تتصبع ندلي إنا مالتيو كم تجبرات خيل آخن أوليف أويل أبيك كم تزاد ماني كرم حجي أمريكا إنا نزز نيرنا حجة أب فانكوفر متيلو اتلينك خسدل كني هذا الشيء جبركني أب واتساب مالتيو أوليف أويل دماني إتانا نم تشكيز ثمانية أوليف أويل نكسب حجز أورجزي كسب حجش دشوا حجر الله سب قريت أيام حجي حندش تبغى مت الله مالتي وبناي كبرتي أبدعمي سمانة إنجلن كرشة 10 قرش خاطي أتوسق مالتي ناي نرويو روي خا مالتي كم بعد سيموس كأبدعم تصبغي إنه طم مجوزي والعدك أنا هيس إنجلن كاوي يرغبوا السيموس دماني حاوي أو تكعوانيرو نسو سيموس هيكونن سيموس بزح عن السيموس يزلو ترى سيموس والحنت زي بلو سيلهم كابتا عشان مجيرهم أو تزبلوا مالتي ساق بوست غبر الكني مرة الصراحة روحوا عند حدا ليخن عمنا يوتيوب على حنت كرات خلاقن ويكأنا خبرك إليه بناي فيجي واترجع كنا هم تجبر عن سالي مين قال جير كن مالتي أنا السودماني عرفت سموزي لساتيوه ويكأن سموزي نحرزي ساتيو خينهم كأني أما جبحوا سابيلنا مسبسلنا يتمجبخ هو من خيرنا توليف أويل قال نحرزي ساتيو خينا ما أقوله دماني مس almond butter peanut butter زي كونه almond butter أبقاسكم لكم نسو لخيابلكم أفتي باني gluten free toast زغبركم أو لخيابلكم تا اوليف اويل ديا وي كاتا فيش اويل ابا دخيا بالكم توبهم بلاك سيد اويل تا بتاع مصبو جن طنقا يدليو نتي إيمين سيستم ناتهم بتاع مصبو يو تأشمو تقبرون السودماني كله تي كنديس كنت هبوهم ناي نمشك بروتوكول تعاقنات مالتي كم عدمي وسوبوست تقبروا لكم يبزي عندنا دماني إذا إذا نوتيلا سيكا جانك فود سيرال ود سيرال بليس قحفوه خبزوهم أوصوه السائق بالزدلانة الصو نعوم ماري سود أحمامهم زوج دمبر والحين تخبوا ما يكلني ناس بتكونوا خلوكم كأ حسكم تكونوا نحرد لهم مجبناتهم أبجز سرحة بيكن شكل لاقي تغير شكل لاقي حسكن تخدع زوج نجار ولا إنجرا تغيرنا أني كم إنجرا دماني طبق مرق دمرق إزناي شكل أبكاسكون لكم شكل أورجانيك كحصر لكم اللي كاسكوز بالزلهم زي فروت نحفظ كوينهم كأفروت تحت زناي فروزن أورجانيك لكم أبكاسكو مالتي زي 5 شيا سيد جلز بملو أبصم أتيهم بتاع عم تصبقيو الزخ بالدلي بقى تي هلزي نحنا كم مالتي حدا أصلي نحر ودي قناسي كسب زحاوي ناس جيزة وسدي مش استناتهم معنا تخاكم مالتي أنا بزي إذا أمن أبتريتمنت أمني كم صنك تقبروا تقوليهم كلاتكم في لابس تصمعكم مالتيو يحواتي علواني نايباي ميديكال بأمريكا قلة دومهم تسديدو تبوفناتهم تسديدو قلة مرمراز قبرة حواتي علواني بإدمنتن شو عدت سبعة أو فتينا نقو جنزبن ودين بر والحنتي لو تتوما قبعت هاي ترخوا من مالتيو زي TRS بحالونا له إذا TRS ون سبراي هاتقولوا له ما بتحتي تملحسهم تمرك أمايك ستين لهم سون والحنت لو تزرع يلوان حواتي مالتيو حجون حدا حاونا دكتور حدا زبالون إلو والله كاتناتي محاستيون درجة شو عتا سبعة دين قال ملا مشاكل إذا عقلن بتصابن مالتيو جيميرون تمسجيبنا اللوا كالوتون زازولكم حفتي أسير قد تبع المورسات بعصات انتو ببروز اللوا كأني بقى جس جنزب كمودة إلى مالتيو أنا أمجبي إذا أمن أم ناتشرالي إذا أمن أبعل إذا أديتات ناس قبر أزنا براها أني كم بعلم زي كربة حجي بإنجليش إذا فين كان سنس مالتيو أفتمرت بتعمل صبويو فوكس قبر التمرتي بالكوكونات أويل السودني شيء تبع بيلكا بجوند إزنومن أبزناي كسادومن يخاتلخيا زي دك أز أبيخا اللافندر after goes on some دك السلو ستبلو زي أود ما زناي باز مالتي السودماني بوست قبر الكمية دك أز أبيهم قلعتكم السوني عسراد أباست قبروهم ناتو كريم دقيا بيلكم عفراجيركم كي تحاسبهم دقيا بيلكم ثم تبقوا ليتي حضروا لا تسمينوا محاضروا أنت كيميكالات أجوزهم تتقوموا موالا ولي جلملا كل سوق حفوهم تراي بيكين صودا بيني جرجركم جزات ولولو مالتيو أتكدان محتسب دما ناتشرال أبكاس كلكم بوست غبروا لكم ناتهم كدان محتسب ناتكم دليتكم تتقوموا ناتهم بتساوون ناتهم نهانكم قلعد كن نغنى عين الكيميكال تبغى يكون النعام كومون براش ذي كيت مالتيو إذن كولجيت السودماني عيني تام تكن السقاني كمي واحد كيميكال زي بلو السقاكم كبروا لكم يا مالتيو أنا بتعمل خبيدي زي جن عند حرحان سأجمعكم إخواتي مع عري كتبوا لهم بحلف زين حسون تقول عز اللوخن زمور تريد بقرلق قبرهم قلق عوتوا بتعمي عوتوا تصبقيهم بك أزياء مور حتى طلقون كاخ ملسلكم يا إخواتي أنا جن حدا رئيس بزوم قلعد زيهم بليز كانوا قوانيهم يبلنا نايت صباح مسأتي كل يوم بك أزيهم كمان سي إذا حوي دانيال سكومو زي بولوسي مع رخندي أنا نعوب بزقات أمي نعو 5 جن اللي بتعمي دعم thank you عد ما هبكي عايزو بلو نازن أنا كوميونتي كبز جيروك حجز بقى قالوا الحانتي ليني إخواتي سمعوا تدريهم عليك أنا تصفقونكم بتعمي البرفكتي أتزار والحنس أجمع زلوا على حجي كنا تنكرم كن كما هم يكن شجر زحالة فأيوه لكم إليه thank you إخواتي
thank you the site I think هانت حطوا لك كافينجن كرمي وجن هذا نقرأ حتى كده لينيري
إيش
رقم دي important كم سكونة أبون عدن I don't know sorry تقريني أتكلم سلزم
no that's okay ترى ديكا mix ترى ديكا
they have to out ندق أم قبلوسي أبون عدن كل جزء أب حدا منفس كله
برافو يا
important سو كم سكونة كستايكل لدلي
يا وزي أنت كلكم دلي كل شيء بوبون بدن أنا فلت إيه يحواتي يالوني أب حوالي لأني أب كالجاري كمو سبيتو خساب حجي زي تعملوا له مالتي والله help يلا قبر دليو زي سبيتو خساب حجي نو بقى تعقو زي قالت النت ولا ترديكموني كل شع ولا توم صوت حواتنا كنوفعوا خلو أفتجازنا نتقول عزخنا عن ملكة ريوم كتسو خلو يحواتي دماني بدد بلا بليز صباح نجوه كتنا عايقن تهي نحر early نحر حجز نحر زي جبركم لا محواتي معري شعود صباح نجوه كوجوبزو خلو ولا تناول ديم تماود ديم كوجوبزو خلو مناني بتعمي بالآخر ما سخدشنا عايقن أبانكو فلتي أدينا هم قلعة زمان طلوا كمون سبعة استودع فلتي من تيلو ما سلمتاي أوفر تأشوف هينو مالتي تقلعة عبيو عبو بيزو مالتي من تيلو ما ويك قلعة مرت إلهم ويك نوزدو ويكا حد مرت سلز بلوا وسيدو ملاكم وخيتو أنا يحواتي بليز أنا زي أخذ لكن زدل أنا حدرا كلتي خاصة أين سبيتن ويك يمس أخم قلعة تم باليا ويك أنا نتقلعة عند حرمت إدمان فتي غايكون كانتم صمزيهم بقى بيجزاير تبارخو قلعتيهم مسموع صدماني فقراتهم كل فقر لهم بقى لا بتعمل بقى فقر يوم زهوها نعم أفكر كام حازم صاين سبيتن كأخذ خاطر واحد لك سبيدي وزخم زخوت صدلي مو كم زخت بالكلا سبأي كأن نتي ممكن أن حاسب كأخذ جزء نو ممكن أن زي تترف بقر خازي تغير نودخ إنفست تقول ندحر تعرف هلك ممكن أجزاء حفتك أقوم ندحر كيلكي نودقي ولا نقولكم كلاتكم مالتي سينجل ما مثل خندما نو بيننا عندنا خوينا قال نقوم زبح النجار يلا بين خيكون كن نحنا لنا يحوات كي مالتي حتى تماطات أنا متندماني أتي من قصة زهبك كنت 207 كنت 207 كنت أنا 4 وسطي أمور حاوي نسو تتقوموا له كابتعو إنه زبالة سوقي بالكن ودي ولا تشهل بنفيت زوبغي نسو تتقوموا له أما بعلو زي فلت والله خفت الزقبر كده قال ملز بحلالو مش قبل كأوخيت كاي يجزأ يبلوكم الله أنا خيطة مهاركم بلوكم الله بنشتي عبز كندا نتيت 2014 تنايت مرتعد ما ينيرو نشتي بعد محجي سالاسا جيرة كمهار زقباني أبغى ليجن أمازون أما عالته 5 ساعات يزدقس أمازون سرح كمونه بعلنا كامبان صريت لزلنا ساعات جزايونكم نسرح مالتي نمانيز ندقنا خنبر كنكلالنا يحواتي أبزي كنتيكم صباح تقبلوا لكم دقوهم كتحابوا يبلكم بليز أنا وين سامر كمزيك تأمنوا تهونكم قالي وين شقتري وقاكم نوع إذا حسيقة كتقولون ياكم حواتي بليز أنا سأقبل أنا أبسب حدا كلتا من رد أقول الصيل الله اندحر كلتيكم سب حدا ندحر زي ترى دوهم زاسد ولا خاني اتصاب أي تراي ندحر نفعو أبوال دحواتيونكم سلازلوا اتصاب أي تراي نفعو تاقوال ندحر حمق إلى بك أنا تقول عن دحر لا كتصفى يقولون إلا ندحر عقلا ندحر هاتسبيبا ترقم يقولون سلامنتاي 24 ساعات أدى أفتجزاله بيني من السلام أي مالسي حدا شو ساعة سريحس ولا سكيب دش جالس لرسول حزم حواتنا بزيادة قدمور أدى أنفع تبزي أدى ندحر نتقول عن دحر مسوقات ندحر زي كفولو تلو أبوغ أبو فاينانشال دماني زي الكاملين تزيلكا أنا أمونني إخواتي ترى تراي بقى ترى تراي يحجزوكمني أمونني كم قالي ترابيز قبرية إنه قالي بتعمل قد أرسل زوانك فولي سيرفيس هارقي بابزي هجري سامر بريك اللي لا سامر بريك كله صباح كنت كيدا نفتي قالوا نبزا ميس كريستينا زرقهما ناخذ كيدا كساعة شعة تخسر ساعة سلسته مالتيو كنت كيدا زقر الجروز والكوهم كيدا إن نحن هدا يعلو اللي طمع العود قال مالتيو اجي كلتيها 70 سبيتم كون كإنفست اللي حزي قبر قالوا من دقها ككله مرد دا مالتي ندحر السبيتي مرع ندحر اللوا سبعي كفت بالجزاء قلعة حزو نتقول عفوا زلوا قلعة حزو أقدركم كلتين عن كيدنا لكم نسبت نوري أقولكم من مجمرة ندقكم كنوري تقول لكم يا إخواتي ندقنا تزينيرنا ندقنا بعدنا ريسبكت نتزي جيرنا يوم ما نمسب ريسبكت قبل لنا يا إخواتي بليز أنا سأزبل مالت أنا أبز جروب عمي متى يخلقوا نمرع أبزي كالجاري مالتيو حوي على بز جروب سيو أبز جيرني أو أوتيزم قال مسراح ما تبقى بقى أسك أنا سي نمنتاي تناتي ستوري نمنتاي كتناتي حاجز بقى أكبر جيري تم زي بدي تمسي نمنتاي زبد إلي نبغهم شير جيرو تناتي ستوري أي نوكا حواتي أديتات ولا سينجل دا دهم دلهم سينجل مام دي خنزل لغن إذا نورمال بقى بتعم عدلنا تاتينا إحنا كم زيوم عين سمارت وقول عد زلونا بتعم الرؤسهم ناتهم بتعم زقور مقلتي زقالي أنا ندعبونه أي وش تناتا رأسي أنا رخبة بتعم بلح ولا كلاتهم كبلح ديمكم تزبولتكم كلاتهم ميلاتكم يا ميس كريستينا مالتيو أجسي
I think the side got disconnected. Kevin Rito, I think Rito or information Alanila Neramo, Monsieur Sleskone, Nai Kevin Samina, I think will end.
Yeah, sai كلكم دلي سروس حجي منجستي ألبرتا
يا ريت هودي تحزلي نصوري كذا ربي أي تحزلي يا ريت
نحن ودي إذا ربحي
إيه بقى أنا حطيت لكم بقى أنا فاميلي أنا حدا راح بالزلي حطيت لكم جم حواتك من السلكم قلي أنا بنفيت وين كذا ربي قلي بزح بنفيت يزلو الساعة مسكرسينات الله يلقى تزاروكم بتعمي خبري نعاء كداونتي ناي كداونتي جنزب الله كالتيمتنا 4 كم تزوركم ورحة ولا وم عندنا دماني تعشموا خالوهم تعيز بحال رسبايت علوهم زي كوميونيتي اورز ون علوهم ترسبايت دماني ابعاد ختما امين كا اني تقوم لي ولا يمس اخيدا فشين تقبر ابغزات خيد دروت قلمله مستندروت مستن كبت قلمله لو امس انجيت غبري اقله مالتيو ابعاد ختما جن زبز حسب سبسل الشجر كان بعد فريتا قال نفعت كنا يكونوا كل زلون ناي قلعت سبيشال نيد حزن لا تراي زي كونا خذون تراي زي كونا كم يجرك خمس صوت مسكال قول عجنت الكونكا كم يجرك خن تعللهم ويك كجبر زغلا تخينا نصبو تزي كوين دن جزءن نود خاصة بعرف لك جزءن هم اللي كان دعات سلت وصده دن نقط عرف لك تراي نخص عرفت جزءن كيد نكوف نحرزه بالأم نحر كوينان نعاي ميك سنس صبغ أيكونن مالت ولا ركب على خا كتجبروا دس بلني نفعت تكون كنجن سب أب السب سلزي بالناس عدا مالتيو كم حرفتن كنقرأ أنا أبز على ختما إخواتي يجبروا مالتيو تأمنوا أسب قبل بتأمنوا أسب حليفو زي هذا كنا FSCD ترقبان حرقون كان تورقت على الوزفرم يفر ملكن تسب بس فر ملكن اتجنزب كليم تجبروا مالتيو شو تغيلو أوتوماتيك اتجنزب يمسكن مفعتهم كن لا تقول تنفري دير فري سويش فنلكن مالتيو سغاتن أو أوتينا زخم دي أسد حيزة هاللي زعم سلت قليلكم أو لازم لا ورقة ناي أونلاين تسقم كمبيوتر تسقم تزيبون ندخل ولا درما بكمبيوترون في الجبرات خيلها ورقتون عند السدال كجزاها استدلو سليب أوفر كألو سليب أوفر كأني 180 قرشة كم زع 10 حروسي داتا نوالي زي زرعهم مع حفتيا أنا تقوم اللي ياخذوا تعياتكم بقت أسئلة زغمت أنا تعيات عش مسألة زلوا مالتيو يوستا جزء مساعة تدقس comfortable من تانك سمع عن بالي صدقي تدقس مساعة شعور مش هسعة شدشة جزء أنا حزاتها نزم 180 هذا كليم جبره تملأ تجنزب يمتسألنا عين مالتيو نايكدان كأخهم تنكدان زين كالوت حواتي 450 قال إن زوز ده أنا كل بيت أرشي زوسد كم كليمز قبر كم أزار 4 مالت كم كأتبوتو مالتيو كاله دماني جزاها أني كم زو أوفر ستريس نحركون كأخذ تقول عسلس تقول أوتيزم كله كارما جزا نت إنجلي يسرع الكاسترس نات كاري إنجلو مالتيو نتازه حكي جنزب تسحب الكاو كليم تقول تجنزب كأخهم قلنا كم كأن السوق أني بفاينانشال تشجور سب كأخهم وقوموا تقولوا نفعتهم كم كات جنزب كمو نقول تنفري ديري فري كم قليل جنزب أيتود هاي تقول تنفري ديري فري مالتيو كم تقولوا تقولوا لهم كالجن سامري لو ما عندي مسألتنا لا مور نايكال جاي مور بنفيت علىكم طبعا أنا لعلي السوق الزاري بن سامري كم بسوقهم يلو مي سامري تعمل مثلني تغنى تبغى مسألة نسا وعينا إيجنسي حاجة تبغى زلوا دعنا دما كتفكم دايجنوس تبغى له دماني بجنزب كألو بجنزب سلزلوا نسامري هو كسائي أبينا يبغى دايجنوس كتفكم بجنزب تبغى سامري هو كسائي السوق علىكم أبكال جاريجن حواتي معركة مزفريت أزبولتو حنت نقدر كحالفنا يقولون ولا الناس بلتنا of course كحالفنا يقولون جونزواميو حنت بحنتي ناتوم معلق بنفيت كنا بولاي بلنا دقنا سرحتني ناي من استوديو ويك سرحتني ناي كمزي نورمال كمزي دكانات جروسوري سرحتني نحرقونكم كأي حواتي اتناتوم بت دايجنوس تغورو ورقة تمتصكم كليم كتجبروا كلكم تاكسي بزيرة يقوم تبقى عيتخوف إنهم جبري بزيرة يقوم توصلوا مالتيو إن ده جنا دم تدياجنوس كتجبروا كلكم دماني نحن تجاجنا عبجي جاز جبرنا يو قالنا معاسي أوتيزم كابتول لدى أوتيزم كينا زي أخنا نقولكم مالت زي أخيرا ساقوا كابتول لدى أوتيزم كينا ويسي معسى أوتيزم كوينا زبل متينا نحنا أنت جرنا 2017 جرنا ويقالي 2015 يا تولي دا مالتي شعوري هم أنا كل تعاملت نقالي سلد حليفوا مالتي إذا معاسي ودايجنوس مستجابرات جنا تتصبتي تبع 10 3 شح متيوا 10 3 شح مسمعة بدحريو ورحاوها جميعهم لا مالتي إذا خاطر الصعوبة يقولكم كله مالتي
بسايد حتى أبدي أحكي سوري أبدي أحكي
يا حسب خلق نغرتي زي بدأ من وحندي بزي أقولي بزا بنفيت تبليا بنفيت راي قال برو تاولا غير بزا بنفيت راي كلهم فاميلي تاكيبو ببنفيت قالوا دتوا هلها منغستير ان ريكوردد اجزي ريكوردد انديو ريكوردد دي كونا انتزحلو بروجرام طبو انا همي لي حسب ان ريكوردد تغيرو ديتيل مخنياتو كم تنفلطو اساون كم تدبلتو بزح ነገር አሎ እቲ ፎርማል እናን ፎርማል ክትኮን ዝግባአካ ከም ተገበረ ይሓይሽ ብል ብስተረፈ አምዳን go ahead
يا أنا مس عندي أتأسر حتى ودي 3 عمت جيرلو diagnose كاب زجبرو زخونة بينري ناي فلتنا financial support بجكا therapy behavioral speech therapy occupational therapy جبرو ليا زخونة جن financial support رأي فلتني تحركتي social case worker نحنا زخونة خمسلو زبل information أي حابتنا أنا حاس فانا سبعي حتى تكون مالتي حج حلا سمع له
أي تهركن يا بزح ديتي بزح زتات that's why أنا personally نتن family حجزنا دبلا زمل علن نبعلي أفلوتوني باللين بتخستعد فلطة بخمس information أتكلم حجة حفتنا دسايت بعلا بتي ولادا سلزة حالة فتوقن بزحات اللوا أنا سات رايدي كونا دكان عبيت زبطوه اللوا أحوات willing to share جن unrecorded كهون اللوا بدحريو detail اتي ويكا recorded كوينو share دي جبر I don't know زي إدرا community يملكت جن up detail اتيها حطو تحتيتو مخنياتو تبنتيت عن بتعمي بزحي دالو so زي خبل دالي please do side go ahead
I think can we give the opportunity to Kevin to anta monera please go ahead.
Okay, so anta يمكن like some another كتزارب ناي gluten free allergies sugar so provincially the have age or income support no روحكم age and income support you who sell the diet restrictions alone sub the process is total specialist مجمريا anti specialist كتحطم لكم كتحفوا ورقة زقلت لاي حمامكم and then send them and they will either send you gluten free ane I bet any cernizer lower sigam celiac disease salazalani so you said do lay mengisti bh samanian kulten kurshi award hey and but ntiom zisarhu middle income, high income people that work nisatom GST claim kugobru zuhulu so tai gobru malatu satom collect gobru receipt in like kulu specifically the special diet lactose free or gluten free expenses and have tax or one claim gobru and come to age and income support clients doctor were at ko rahbulom and kusadulom alom netium mingisti Canada the gullet alom is hemam and I've the chat kugo links are local benefits come on mobility aids claim to go over Hulu but I'll put the link of the Turiwa. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. And Yorda, she said she needs to share something. Yorda, would you mind if you do that? And then I think በዚተና አጽወጽ ነይሩ so that ካለ መደብካ ክንገብሪና it's not going to end በከምዚ እንድሕር ከልኩም ሁሉ ሰብ ሼር ገበረዎ
ዳኒ ሓወይ ዮሬታ ጠጣቢ ለካ ኣብዚ ኣነ ዝሓፍተይ ክዛረብ ፀንሓትካ ሓታ ሓንቲ ሕቶላትኒ ፕሊስ ሓፍተይ ሶሪ ዮሬታ ኣብዛ ክትብለያ ፅናሕኩ ኮኒ እዚ ናይ መግቢ ገለ ማለት እዩ ክንደይ ፈቲና ኢና ኣይከውንዩ እዞም FSCD ማለት እዩ እቲ ቆልዓ ፀገም ዘለዎ ክኾን ኣለዎ ፀገም ክብል ከለኹ ኣላብ ዝጎረቤተይ ብእቲ መግቢ ክትበልዕ ስለ ዘይትኽእል ከም ዝምሻሎ ፀገም ተወሳኺ ሕማም ስለዚ ኦቲዝም እንዳ ግን ተወሳኺ ከቢድ ሕማም ኣለዋ መግቢ ክትበልዕ ኣይትኽእልና ከምዚ ብቱቦ ዝኣቱ መግብታት ገለ ምሻሎ ኤንወይ ኣይ ዶንት ኖ ብዙሕ ነገር ተኣሽሚዩ ንሳ ሳፖርት ናይ መግቢ ትግበርያ ንሕና ግን እተን ኣብ ካልጋሪ ዘለና 200 ገለን ሰባ ኤድመንተን ሓቲትና ነርና ናይ መግቢ ንኦቲዝም ቆልዑት እንድሕር ተወሳኺ ሕማም ፀገም እንተለዎም ይንበረይ ከምዚ ንሕና ሕጂ ንገብሮ ዘለና ባዕልና ከምዚ ንስና ባዕልና ንኸፍሎ ገንዘብ ኮሚና ንሕና ንገብረሎም ስለ ዘለና ኣይዶንት ሶ ከቨር ዝገብሩ
ኣብዚኣ ናይ ኣሽን ድዩ እዚኣ ልዕሊ 18 ዓመት ንዝኾኑ ደኣ ከይትኸውን እንተዘይተጋጌ ንቆልዑት ዘይኮነ ልዕሊ 18 ዓመት ኣብቲ ኤጅ ተኣትዊ I think you have to be an adult እንተዘይተጋጌ if I'm not mistaken
እሺ
ሓንሳ like ቀልጢፈክ ሓታ ኣደይ ድሕር ትቕበሎ ነይራ ኣነ under 18
Okay. So for the meantime, Yorda wants to say something. Would you mind if you can go ahead, please, due to the time?
Actually, Dan Howie, thank you so much.
Sorry, Sakum. Hatite Ade and Nera might obolo Nera under 18 Kolahu, so no.
Yeah, thank you.
يا دان حاوي أنا كمزي قربتي سفح دبالت حساب يعني رات النجن because time كيدوس لازلو حجي maybe نخالي معلتي هون لنا يخوني جن أحنت حفت عن توي بزح توت حتى نيران تاع تعدا سبيتي مو بزعبا ADHD ناي بزعبا ناي ودا personally contact تجابن I don't know شو مكير أخوان مو ندحر contact كتجابن تخيل كده اسم بلني مو أنا ونودي ADHD سلازلو بزح information كباك مخالك كده حاسيبة I don't know like جزء يبلنا مثلا نجن حدا نتقطع الدزارة بتعمل دسم بدن دان حوي
yeah from about you know if they say okay go ahead yeah for me I'm okay like I'm here to help so أجمع بالليل أنا
يا حجي أنا أنتي قبل دلي مسيلك دان حوي توم بقدامي دي نبركم سبعة لهم أنا ودي already حجي almost 14 next month 14 عمت كجبري so almost شو مونت عمت جلز فونسي medication تاني حلو مالتي and I am so like بتعم حجوستي بتناتي decision كم ولاديت بزح زحلف كوستراجنير تحطوتات بملؤ نعيد نبرن نحطو لزخوني personal كرخبكي لك مبزحتنا زلو حطو كم ولد بتعمينا بزح استراجل نجبر قدامي كم تو قدامي دبلكو كابا متات أنا كبهلنا بزح نفلتو قد يكون حد شينا أنا بخور إذننا أيو أنا خزاربت خوينات من سمع خوص اتتر منو بعلو سامي أيو يفلتني the only thing دفلت أبعد ديك اللوخ ولا عخل اللوخ سي داون سيندروم كل عترة يفلتني ركال فللي كم زلو أوتيزم ADHD ولا حتى عينت أفلت وين برنا سمعوا خلوخنا عي بخور إذني هجي أنا استراجل زجبر كو عبزو حتى ولا الدخادريو بايز نخون مو اليوم ما مهران against نايدك أنا مهناتو كل جزء كاباي جميركم مالتي عبدينا لينا نخون مجمرة مهناتو ولادنا ينفكروا إنا مثالو I don't know تولاد كلنا ولدينا بزدلنا مو يردأكمي ولاد كاس كم زخون نخت بحال سمع ديت دلنا جري زخون عينت أجمع يكون حمام زخون عينت even قال عتبة يسوي كخدو ولا كخبيت مرتخمر بسمع أنا حماقنا جرالو كم ولد مالتي عين دلينينا حماقنا يدكنا سلزي زخون خمس داغنوس مخ عاب نجر مخ أفلت أديبلنا ولا حنت information ديبلنا بخور إذننا خنجرنا خلو تي بسمع أنا سمعت أنا يفلتوي حجي أنتي نخونينا أب حنسا أب دينالنا أتمو كمزي ودي تعنا لك ودي تأجم يبلون نام مبال نخيدي نابزح جزء أنا إلى سلز نبركم على تيمنات بقدام جديد يونيرة البوزيتيف سايد نيدك أنا بتمرت ممهاران قال زيري ونحنا ننفلتو هجي أور يربشوا جن تمرباش ولا الناس لزخونس لنا في قرب قليل نارين يعني نحلف أمين كم أين كابدونينا تحرجن انتي كخال تعذيبه مالتي كاباي ويون أبكالوت ولدي توم ممهاران بقى زبلونا نجار كله نيجاتيف بقى تقليم سلا زخونه ولادنا ويون نسوم سلا بقى نيجاتيف أنا حاسبه حجي زنبعلو عاب أفكتي زمت نعي إذا خيدنا نجار كزارب ندحر كوينا أب حدا بيت مرتي كمهارو دك أي وسينا مالتي 4 قول سلا زلوني 4 يوم أب حدا بيت مرت كمهارو ليدا لين من تايتي لكم نخا تي relationship after بيت مرت مستوى ممهاران سبيل دخل دلي ناتو مجمرة بزوح نير نستراجل إذا خبلكم جن كلهم ممهران تعياتهم ويدما كم عينت كم زني ريسيزم نجار عقات مني مالتها يكون كون يقات ميو السخاب دك نستوعلون خلينا عنون كاب زخول عمتها دك أب حدا 19 عكفلن ديو تعبي قاليس already ودي أسنا هاي سكول عتيلا أجيج ليش شعت عمسي حدا بيت مرتس فهلت أقول لكم مالتي كلهم دك إكاستي لا مهار الله ثم مهارنا أودلو خلتا خلتي 4 دك أميرو ملي الله قال حجي بزح relationship build جيره عرفت بيت مرت on purpose يخوم جيره يوم هناتو بتقم اللون يرأسوا زخالة مالتي ناتهم دقهم كردوا ومنسخهم more communication build تقبلوا كن positive side كري فتينا بمجمرة بزح استراجل سلاز قبل زنبركو anyways كن أبزخوا العمتات كلتا ممهاران ترى استراجل جيره السخاء سيريس هيد وستونة نجار ناب principal قيد على اللويلة fight تقبل كل جزء نيرو overall كنا في point take ملص كل نجار زبلو ناسي نيجاتيف نايدك أنا أيقونن دحر اتي مدهانيت موسى دبهال نجار مالتي نحن برجعي برقت زقددنا ولا حدا أكل إلا جن أنا كم يوردانوس كزارب ندحر كوينة بتعمي دحقوس مخنياتو اتي بزي موسى دو كهون زخل زنبرة حدا قاتات ويدما أبي واتو خمس قالو زخل زنبرة تدعنو يخبط نيرو مالتنا ننول لادي هجي I don't know كم زي بنات بتاعت بزي حنا نديرلو دحر at the same time كأجزي خيدو لي يحسب سلازلهو حسابي كفافلن له بزخونه كن اتوم personal حتو درلكم مور كعني كان زدا ساويت حفتنا حجي مور أنا نبعلي بزح مهارة له بزعبا أوتيستيك قلعت مالتي أنا قلنا ADHD دفلت بزعبا ADHD هاخذ زارب دخل ودي سلازخونه ناتي personal كستاي مالتي حجي أفلت أزلني اتوم حتو زلكم كتتوكيسكم مني I don't mind إذا مالت أنا بprofessional ديكونس بت experience نعطي زخونيك زارب دخل جن شو مونت عمت ويشعت عمت وحد عمتها يكونني لخ أي حسبي هجي قال أيد ما حدا حونا عن توي كزارب كله أنتي ناتهم ريكورد قال لخ أسامي يعني رح جي تي stigmatism I know كمزي نوري كونن هذا نقدر كرد أنا دلوسي ولا دساويت كتزارب يعني هذا يوم دك ناسي they are diagnosed with ADHD or autistic تباهي لمسي كم نوري نجار يكونن I know أبتنا هنا بحالي أنا بزوح نجار فيس كريه خنا نقولكم ADHD الله ودي لنخزارب أمامتهم سبات أمامتهم زوق صون جزيتات نيرو في الليل ما بهايمان الدرجة ما بزوح نجارات بزوح ستيغما بزوح علنا pressure مالتي أنا كن on purpose يزاربه مهناتو صعدكم وبنت أنت بمزرابن مجمرة information رخبكوا كات صعدوا نيرمو هو ودي كم ديلان بزح ده حق زاني عب كبابي يزلوا family تاتلوا هجي أنا هقوم وخوني زد اللي أفتناتي community هجي ADHD الله ودي لس on purpose زاربه اللي جديها تلوا oh he's on medication إلى دماء يقتل مش it is judgment جنا أبجت أميزريو كم زي أملاخ هويت ويا أملاخ أمنت كم زي باللي ويد ما مدهانت بمهابك أخم عباي جبننيا بزح نجارات مالتي قل it's just نحن مرجعيو نقدنا medication كنبلو مالنا دكنا مالتها يكونن أنا كم يوردانوس كزارب قل كابتي إتي isolate كوينو محازو دي بلو أبيت مرت struggle دقبرو نبرة ممهارانو كشجرو معلتا of course أبيت مرت حاجة زي قبرو لومي ده حد عني أنا ideally ودي medication كوسدي لناسي نتقولعه قال توسخ ممهر تجيرلو بمنجس درجة مالتيو توسخ ممهر تجيرلو حجز مالتي حجزت اللوا كحجزوا قلقلاتهم حلافنتي جن أنا ناتي حتون تايو عبزي نمن تاي إتولادي كالق قلعة ጎዶሎ ወይ ድማ ከምዚ different ኮይኑ ንምንታይ ስምዖ ስለምንታይ ኖርማል ቆልዓ ኮይኑ ክዓቢ ዘይክእል ሓንቲ ከኒና ንመዓልትሲ ንዑ እንድሕር ህይወቱ ትዕርየሉላ ኮይናሲ እንታይ ሳይድ ኢፌክት ኢኻ ከምፃሉ ድኽእል እዚ እውን ሓቂ ክነግረኩም ሪሰርች ገይረ ይስእለ ይኮንኩን እቲ ናይ ቀደም ሜዲኬሽን ኦፍ ኮርስ ትቅድሚ ብዙሕ ዓመታት ዝነበረ አዲክቲቭ ነይሩ ይብልዎ እዮም እዚ ናይ ሕጂ ዘሎ መድሃኒታት ግን ኣይኮነን ጽቡቕ ነገሩ ንዓይ ብሓንቲ መድሃኒት እዩ ዘሎ ስጋብ ሕጂ ብንእሽተይ ጀምሩሉ ኢልያቲ ናቱ ሚሊግራም ሲ ብታሕቲ ጀሚረዮ ስቲል ሕጂ እውን ዳሓኒ ምስ ፊዚካሊ ዕቤቱ እንዳወስኸ ኸይዱ ኦፍ ኮርስ ካብ ዓመታት ንድሓር ማለት እዩ ግን ብዙሕ ኣይኮነን ስቲል ድወስድ ሕጂ እንታይ ክብል ኢለ እንድሕር ወላ ቀያይሮም ፈቲኖምሎም ሓደ እንድሕር ደይሰሪሑ ፀገም ኣይኮነን እንታይ ሞ ከምዚ ፖይዘን ኣይኮነን ዘምፃሎም ሳይድ ኢፌክት ዳእማች የለን ሜቢ ተሓንቲ ሳይድ ኢፌክት ኣነ ድፈልጣ ታድቃስ ያሰኻ ምሸት ሜላቶኒን ወስድ ካልኣይ ኣነ ከም ኣነ ማለት እዩ ኦንሊ መድሃኒት ድህቦን ወደይ ትምህርቲ ቤት ክኸይድ ከሎ እዩ ምክንያቱ ኣብ ገዛ ኣብ ሳመር ይኹን ኣብ ዊኬንድ ኣይሂቦኒ ብከምዚ ከዓ ወላ ሓንቲ ከምዚ ኣብኡ ዲፔንደንት ዝኾነሉ ነገር ይብሉ ግን እንተዘይወሲዱ ክነግረኩም ኣልጢፈቲ ሳዕበይኑ ዝርዮ መምህሩ ብፍላይ ሓደ ግዜ ቅድሚ 2 ዓመት ኣብ ሻቻይ ክፍሊ ትምህሮ ዝነበረ ቬሪ ናይስ መምህር ንሓፍቱ ምህራታ ሕጅነቶም ካልኦት ደቂያ ትምህሮም ልክዕ 5 ደቂቃ ኣብ ክላስ ወይ 10 ደቂቃ ምስ ገበረ ትፈልጡ ያ ከምዘይወሰደ ልክዕ ከኣትኸለ ያ ትፈልጦ ትድውለለያ ኢሚዲየትሊ እንድሕር ረሲዑ ዲሃብኮ ማለት እዩ ኣልጢፈ ሽዑ የብፅሓሉና ቤት ትምህርቲ ምክንያቱ እቲ ዲፍረንስ ብጣዕሚ ሂዩጅ ኣብ ቤት ትምህርቲ ምክንያቱ ፎከስ ይስእንሞ ኣይመሃርን ኣዕሩኽ ክገብር ይሽገር ብጣዕሚ ፍራስትሬት ይገብር ካብ ቤት ትምህርቲ ዘሊሉ ሃዲሙ ቀጥሪ ዝወፀሉ ግዜ ነይሩ ብጣዕሚ ስኪን ጥዑይ ቆልዓ እዩ ፈቃሪ ገለገለ እቲ መድሃኒት ክወስድ ከል ያስዊዲ
So can I just fill a case because my clothes have one and every single time
sure no worries you can do that
white stuff it goes in my hair
yeah no worries you can do that but you have to sleep okay sorry guys I don't know ብዙሕ ኢንፎርሜሽን ኣለኒ ቶም ብግል ተሓቱ ንሕተቱን ምክንያቱ ንኹሉ ወኪለ ክዛረብ ከዓኒ ግዜኹም ከይወስተልኩም እንቶም ናይ ኦቲስቲክ ፋሚሊ ድኾንኩም ሜቢ ዝንዓኹም ደይከውን ክኸውን ንኽእል እዩ but anyways overall ግን ኣነ ብጣዕሚ ሕጉስ ንወዲ ዓሚ ምክንያቱ ኖርማል ቻይልድሁድ ክመርሕ ኣኽኢልዎ ስለ ዝኾነ ብሰንኪቲ መድሃኒት ማለት እዩ ድሓር ሪከርድ ገለ ዝበሃል ድማ ሰዋት ቦላ ሓንቲ ኣፌክት ደምፃሉ ነገር የብሉን ኣብ ዝኾነ ቦታ ከይዱ ዝኾነ ሬጅስተር ክገብር እንታይ ሜዲኬሽን ድወስደሎ ክበሃል ከሎ ADHD for the sake of ንዑ ንምሕጋዝ እዩ እምበር ከምፃሉ ዝኽእል ጎዶሎ ወይ ሳዕበን ክህሉ ወላ ሓንቲ ነገር ወይ ኣትሒቱ ከርእዮ ዝኽእል ወላ ሓንቲ ነገር የብሉን በቲ ኣነ ዝርድኦ እንድበፃሕክዎን እዩ ምናልባት ተተጋጌ ሬታ ግበሩለይ ግን ኣብ ናቱ ሂወት ኣብ ፊውቸር ሲ ከስዕበሉ ዝኽእል ነገር ወላ ሓንቲ የለን ኢለ ዝኣምን ኣነ ምክንያቱ it's a normal thing ሰብ ካንሰር ሃልይዎ ሹገር ሃልይዎ መድሃኒት ከም ድወስዶስ ልክዕ ከምኡ ነገር እዩ ፉሊ ገበን ኣይኮነን ወይ ክንሓፍረሉ ዘለና ነገር ኣይኮነን ወይ ምሻሎ ሕማቕ ነገር ኣይኮነን ብሓፂሩ ስለዚ እቲ ሜን ክንሓስቦ ዘለና እቲ ምስ ውላድና ክጥቀመሉ ዘለዎ ነገር ወይ ድማ ንሱስ ከመይ ገይሩ ሃፒ ቆልዓ ኮይኑ ኖርማል ቻይልድሁድ ይመርሕ ኢልና ሓሲብናስ እቲ ንዑ ዘልዮ ነገራት ምክንያቱ ሓደ ግዜ ናህና ይገውን ኣብ መገዲ ኣትዩ ምክንያቱ ያ ኦፍ ኮርስ ፅባሕ ንግሆ ተሓተቲ ክንከውን ኣይንደሊን ኢና ወይ ድማ ንውላድና ሕማቕ ዴሲዥን ጌርና ፅባሕ ንግሆ ሪግሬት ንገብረሉ ክኾን ኣይንደሊን ኢና ኣነ ኣብ ከምኡ ዓይነት ዲለማ ዝነበር ኩል ግዜ ስለ መድሃኒት ተሂበዮ ሕማቕ ኣደድ ይድኸውን ደለኹ ንወደይ ምሻሎ ይጎድኦ ደለኹ እንተዘይሂበዮ ኸ እንታይ ዓይነት ሳዕቤናት እዮም ክመፁ ወይ ድማ እንታይ እዩ እቲ ንዑ ዝጎድሎ ነገራት ኣብዚ ብዙሕ ተቐርቂረ ከምዚ ቀልጢፈ ይኮንኩን መድሃኒት ክህቦ ከለኹሲ ውስን ዘበልክዎ ነገር ኣይኮነን ዳርጋ ዓመት ወሲድለ እዩ ምስ ፔዲያትሪክ እንዳተመላለስኩ ብዙሕ ነገራት ማለት ምስ ፔዲያትሪሽያን እንዳተኸታተለ ገለ ከሎ ማለት ሕጂ ዶክተራት ከዓ ፕሬዠር ተገይሮምኹም ፎር ዘ ሴክ ኦፍ ነቶም ቆልዑት ኢሎም እዮም ድኾኑ ግን at the end of the day ግን ናትኩም ምርጫ እዩ እንድሕር ኖ ኢልኩም ከዓ ኖ እዩ ማለት እዩ ከም ምርጫኹም እዩ ንሱ ናይ ተወላደ ምርጫ እዩ but anyways I think ካብዚ ኣኽለን መስለን እንዳንሓወይ ቴሌፎነይ ክትፅሕፈልኩም ወይ ድማ I don't know personal ክትፅሕፈልኪ እሞ ቴሌፎነይ ክትረኽብኒ ትኽእል ኢኽ anybody can call me ዝፈልጦ information ክብ I'm willing I'm happy ማለት እዩ thank you ያንለይ
alright ኣብ ዋትስኣፕ ግሩፕ ከፊትና ኣለና እቲ ዋትስኣፕ ግሩፕ እንታይ እዩ ሰፖርቲንግ ሲስተም ንዓኹም እዩ ምንም to be honest ንሕና ከም ትፈልጦ ፕሮፌሽናል ገለ ኮይና ከይኮነ ካብ ሓደ ሰብ ትመሃርዎ ነገር ስለ ዘሎ እዩ maybe هذا سب ويب سايت كفلت يخل ወይ هذا سب بزعبة دايت كفلت يخل هجي السيستم هراري زي نقرأكم نجر كنا نحدكم شير تقبروا information سلازلوي is كل privacy على وزي to be honest أبز كمان لو ينك تقبروا كلهم انتناتكم بشمكم كتصحفون ده زي بالكم أي تصحفوا it's totally is free كالايكا حجينا نجمر زلنا definitely زقول لنا نجر ونا professionals زقول لنا نجر كهلويو feel free to give us suggestion بالناس أيو تتحسبوا نجر معنا free كوينكم جاتن وسخت like نعاي زي ترى نجر نعاكم كرأيكم نعاكم زي ترى يوردا كرأيكم مسلس كنا زي بقى الناس آمن رحيو كم يجرنا دسمنا كنحجز بمبان زين قستاجرنا زلنا I think إيوبن سلام سرقة يدوم حافظ بيلو مالو في سب question أدل كبكمو بزيا كنا عصوا كلايكا سالفة مدب نقولكم كامل بوتدارينا من حتى نهار لكم go ahead and
أنا دخزارة داويت
yes go ahead
يا ببال hello
قتل
اوكي حراش طبق ثانك يو هو مجمريا انا بتعمل دمس لكم انا المجمريا جزاز عم عينت conversation لا تدلخو بزعبا انا كم عينت ترخيب زلو عين خيب زلو حمامات ناي اوتيزم ناي داون سيندروم ناي كلا عين تمساسل النجر المجمريا جزاء انا حنتي قال الله انه قالي داون سيندروم يدلوا حجي بزعبو من البات قروتي افلوت زلو وسوي افكنزناتي عين زلو وسب قلعان زلو سني مور انفورميشن مدلخون يري اتي ابز قبر زلو حجي نزاربو زلنا زرباتات ازي خافتهم بروفيشنالات خافتهم دكاتر نلعلي دين رهبو انفورميشن يزي ازي اتزبلت information way منقدي ندكنا إلنا نحسبه أنا إذا حسبه النجار مالتي لازم خابز دبلت النجار سي ولا حدا يلن بإكسبيريانس تفتينه كل سبب دكوا زفتناه زراعة يوصي زمسة نجار سلازخونة سني إتي بإكسبيريانس حلفة سلازخونة قبضن العالم أنت كتب هم قالوا تكو information كو أي نقولنا يوم ولا حد نقولنا information يلن كم زغورلهم بجكة ثيرابي تدي كوينا تا ثيرابي خاني كم زي حفتنا دي صوت قصة تنحت بزح حد معي أيقونان تقندي أد معي بيتسب 100% أفتن قلعد بقى ملو جزيو وملو خصايو جنزبو كل نجر كسوا أخلاله بچم نزخ دوغمو አይደልني دساويت بتعمي دمسجناتي نخلو عينت لاي كمز عينت زلو خناتات ببشنخو بب ارقستو نخل تنكيف كيون دخي اتي اتانا خفاني بتعمي ويل اندرستاندد صبو مغلصي يدبلاني بتعم صبو ስለዚህ بتعمي يقنيلنا قال أي معلتها أبزاني واتساب information تسريتكم لي I'm willing to share with you guys كل information كال زروح ونجر مالتي نسخاتكم وين كم زدوا لكم ناي داون سيندروم وحجوا قالي أي تزاربني قلنا she's very smart بتعمل smart يا كل نجر يتفلت the only thing problem ده الواحد يجي تزربه أمبر كم زتقول صوت أنا حكم حدا نجارات كم زنا محاز كم زي ايزوليت مخان كل فتاي تفوتونيا زيتات نيروا حجدن تاتا محاشت مرسالا كم زولو تدسويت كات اباناي جملون ستنيرا جن حدا بوتاتات ديسكونتينيوس لزغورو انا امريكا تقمت من 700 مالتي مصدقين كلها جن اتي ناي صوا جمل كتاي سلازنبره ديسكونتينيو غيرهم حدا بوتا كن رهوي كان عن بحري مالتيو حجز دي ساوي دغلو صتناي صبا جمل اتي انفورميشن ابي كن رهبو انت صحيف كلنا صبو نيرو ካልኡን ካልእ ኣነ ዘይጥቀመሉ ነገር ብዙሕ ዝገለጽክዮ ነገር ኣሎ ደሳዊት በዓል ከምዚ ቱስፔስት ዲተርጀንት ናይ ክዳውንቲ መሕፀቢ እዚታት እምበር እቲ ካልእ ኮ ግልተን ፍሪን እቲ ዳያሪ ፕሮዳክት ፍሪን ዘበለ ንስታት ኩሉ ኣይንህባን ኢና ስለዚ ብጣዕሚ የቀኒልና more information ተሎ just let's keep in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you Eyob Hawe for sharing our story ማለት እዩ ብጣዕሚ የቀኒለይ እቲ ፀባ ግመል ትዝበለፀ desert farm እዩ ከምዚ እንዳ ሶማል ገለ ድኳን ከድካ ኣይትግዛእላን ጓልና ማለት እዩ desert farm ግን እቲ ሊንክ ክሰደልካ ኣብ ኣሜሪካ perfect ማለት እዩ ብጣዕሚ ጽቡቅ ከም ኣና ኣትኾነልካ ታሹም ها እቲ ከም ዝበልካይ ናይ ከም ትናይቲ ፕሮዳክት ድማ ኣብ ኳስኮ ይዘሎ ኩሉ ኣብዚ ዋሳብ ምሳና ስለ ዘላ ካብዚ ግሩፕ ብሙሉኡ ክሰደልካ ጥራይ ካብ ሶይ ካብ ዚዕፉናት ገለ ጥንቅቕ ጥራይ ቦልሱ ናይ ምግቢ ናይ ኒትሪሽን ድማኒ ሓፍታ ያላ ሓንቲ ሳኻ ክልመና ኣይ ማለት እዩ ሞርካ ንሱ ኸዓ ኩልሃና ከተብረሃልና ክትምህረና
ብጣዕሚ thank you
በቃ thank you
እዚ ከም ዝነረኸበ ኢንፎርሜሽናት ኣነ ክንደይ ፈቲነ ከም ትብልዮ ዘለኹም ናይ መንግስቲ ሓገሳት ሕጂ ጀሚርና ኣላ ግን ተን ኣው ዝሰርሓ ብዙሕ ኢንፎርሜሽን ኣይባኸን believe me ታን እሽተይ ትረኽባ ኢንፎርሜሽን ንሳ ጥራሕን እምበረይ ዲፕ ዳውን እንታይ የድልዮም እንታይ ከምዚ ዓይነት በነፊት ከምዝሎ ዋላ ሓንቲ ግን ሽዑ ንሕና ክሳይ ምስኮናና በቃ ከምዚ ሓንቶ የድገለጽክዮ we were not happy with the agency so kala agency dalina ማለት እዩ which is related with Habesha Somalia ዘለው ነገር እዩ and Somalia had first they are well informed in any way ስለዚህ ጽቡቅ ኢንፎርሜሽን ሂውና ማለት እዩ then we like that and ሕጂ ምስ ቆጥና ለና ማለት እዩ አሁን ሐበሻ ስለዘሎ ሓደ ኢንፎርሜሽን አትዩ ሕጂ ንሕና ንሕድና እቲ ኢንፎርሜሽን ዘድልየና እዚ ንደቅና ዕብየት ስለ ዝኾነ ከምቲ ዝገለጽኩኖ ኩልኩም ዝገለጽኩሞ ንደቅና ዕብየት ስለ ዝኾነ ስኒ we have to struggle ንዖም ኢና ነብር ዘለና ንዖም ኢና ንሰርሕ ዘለና ስለዚ ከም ስለ ዝኾነ እቲ ዘለና ኢንፎርሜሽን ብሓቂ ሸር ንግበሮ thank you very much
thank you Eyob ሰላም ናትኪ ተራዩ thank you ሰላም ሰረቀ ኢድኪ ሓፋ ቢልክለኺ
Hello, nice salam ya. Saya already temelisa tahu arriba tak sana temelisa monggo.
Okay.
Ya, yang ini nak tamin ana nasibin.
No problem.
Ya, thank you حبيبي.
أمو تعمي كأننا بقدمي صومن يا جرنالينا مس دكتورات بجرنالينا مجمرة مدب كنده هارك يوصلنا I think درجة 4 قلنا سبنيرو بمن انتهي حسيبنا كابتو 4 قلنا بزنبرو سبات already تصقم كم زلوا فريد أمي مريض زلوا سلازي بزح بدكتور explain زرون تا ADHD قلا important بانو بزح أي ترى نقول نعهم عديكم زلوا بزي سيستم زحالة فسب بزي نقر زحالة فسب ناتو experience share تزقبر بزح نقر كتمهارو تخليهم already تصقم كم زلوا فريدكم سلازي متأهم نسيز حق زكم سلازي بنا
بتعمي دمسجن سرعكم وبتعمي دقلت بتعمي دمسجن
كدساويت بتعمي كمسجنكي يدلي
داني حايكم خيتبل نعي مانم كمسجنن يدليني كلهم دق ايوم كم تكزابير نعي نقالي كم نورمال كوانا عاخينا حجي تبل انا تراي بقى مود اتا حدا رأي زبت كم زي ايوم حاونا يردي حفتنا زولوتو كلهم ندقنا همتم نورمال قلعو تريت نقبورهم ريسبكت نقبورهم كابسه باين حبايا زي مود داتا بقى
دهنا ابا خلينا دساويت يصحابك كان عنده حرالنا فانكي بول دويلنا خنرهبك نسدو
ጸገም የለን ሄልፕ ጎብሮኩም ኸኔ ምን ችግር ኤኒ ታይም
በቃ ሞ ቴሌፎን ከ ኦሬዲ ብዘ ረኺበ ያለሁ
ፈረሽ
በቃ ባደዊልና ዝኾነ ፍቶታት ተሎ ካንገብሪና ሼር ኩልና ቦገና ቦጎን ጉባኤ ነሕመቅ ኩልና
كل تي زلوا كل تي أنا صدق أمانو شر قبل ما تراي كاب صوين التنقع كاب عفون كان التنقع مالتيو
هو تزبلكي عن توي بمولو بجاه بوست جبريه
كله حج كله بوست قبل ما نعهم كا ولا قاعد فوتو تخوينهم قال لك أنا تتأسمي كابيتي جراس في تسعر زبل عكبتي كابيكي تكون تجوزوا قال بمولو أو نقول لا تكون بوست قبل ما ولا تيقعد ممكن تكون ما خلوا زين حواتي دماني انتي كتقما خم زلوا اخلي بعل طاف قال ما عارف انديت ايرن نتمعل صبق مهان نزربا نحجزهم قال كله بزياده قن اتنا نترشان الله الناس بلد تمرقت حفتنا بليس يلخل كل من ينعا نعاون انفايت كنقبراينا نتهزبنا معرخ انديز بعل كوميدره كله تمغبي كتمهركم يعني كلاتكم እንደገና ድማኒ እትናይ ኦቲ ኦፕሬሽናል ቴራፒውን ከዕድማ በቃ كله كنقبرينا صدام يقولوا نتنهنا دقناس بقى ناي صباح دكاتره كونلنا يام حكومنا يا ماجو
تعم تبو دزلي تعم
ايش زحمه سلام ليت ايش
واتساب لوك سوري واتساب لينك شير قبروا برايفسي نان انفورميشن يلن just information نملواط sorry I still have issues تمنيا كنلاوت information منتي كنتحاجز كازلكم رئيتو حسابات ويكا كال experience كونو سبات فلطوم سبات اندهرالو موتيفيت نغبرهم ابز مصيوم حسابهم شير كغبرو منتي حاده كاب حاده كاد بحجا انا كمت دساي زبلتو انا قول ايبلين تو بي اونست ግን قول ايبلين ኢሌ ናይ ካልሰብ ቆል አክሳቀ እንዳራሁስ ቆብለ ይብለኝ وانا ناتي كهلون يكل ود حفتي كهلو يكل ود دمو يكل ወይ you know ወይ ጎረቤት كهلو يكل so ናግድ ነዚ ነገር ጸጋም ዘለው ሰብ ጥራህ ኮነ እዚ ኢንፎርሜሽን ስለዘሎ በጣም የቀነላ ጊዜኩም ወሲድናልኩም አፕ ሊንክ ሰዲደልኩም አለ ሆነ ዋትስአፕ አቡ ጆይን ግበሩ ካላይካ ሐዳደ ጊዜ መልእክት ያብዝ ዘይኮን ሰዓት ከመጽከሎ ክርብሸና ስለዚህ ክል ሚውት ግበሩ ሚውት እንደርጌርኩሞ አይርብሸም زي notification that said next time gabrokum I think ካልህቶ እንደይብልኩም thank you so much አምላክን ኩላህና ያግዘና
Danny
amen
oh yeah
before you go give me the host back please
oh how do I do that okay let me
go to check I will claim
yeah you the host now
okay I'm the host okay በጣዕሚ ድምስገንታ ሽሚኡ 32 ሰዓት አለና 3 ሰዓትን ልዕሊ 3 ሰዓት ጌርና ندمጽ ግን خبركم ددلين تخنقبرينا بمتحبار مس دانيال ግን እንታይ خنقبرينا ናይ መጀመርያ ሰዓትን ፈርቃን ነቶም ስፔሻሊስት ወይካ ዝኾነ ሰብ ከም ጌስት ምጽና ንقربو ንዑ ዕድል ክንህቢና ድሕሪ ደሎ ናይ ሰዓት ወይ ሰዓትን ፈርቃን ሬከርድ ቢልና ንዓና ዘድልየና ዘረባታት ክንዛረቢና ማለት እዩ ብጣዕሚ እትዘሐጉስ እንታይ ኩሉ ኣብ ነፍስና ሒዝና ድጸናሕና ሕጂ ንዛረበሉ ለና ድሓር እንድሕራው ጺኻዩ እንድሕር ሰብ ሰሚዑካ ንስኸማን ኮምፎርታብል ወይ ከዓ ጽቡቕ ድስምዖ ኣብ ውላዱ ድዩ ኣብ ሓዉ ድዩ ወዲ ሓዉ ድዩ ወዲ ሓፍቱ ድዩ ክርኢ እንከሎ ኸማነይ ጽቡቕ ስምዖ ማለት እዩ ሕጂ ከምቲ ናይ ዓድና ዝበሃል ዝነበረ ወይ ዝግበር ዝኾነ ሕማም ዘለዎ ወይ ዝሓመመ ክትርኢ ከለኻ ከምዚ ናይ ምድንጋጽ مسكيناي حاوي مسكيناي كم زخاب مبال انت خبر علني وين انت خنقبروا للني لنا اندحر نتنقر قطيمنا ناي كلها حاجزيو اذا تراي اذا عين تراي حمامه ايكون نزلو بزح عينه حمامات አለው ግን ነዚ ከም ፋሚሊ ሕጂ از جروب chat ተፈጥና ደላ ዛናይ ዋትስአፕ ኣብ ኣን راخد ንዝመጽ ኸማን ብዙሕ መደባት ኣለና ምስ ዳንኤል ከማን ተዛሪበ ነይረ بجروب chat نزارب دحر بعلنا سبيشاليست عند عدمنا هنا نصن خيلينا سامر دي ولا زغونه كركب كل اوان كاني نحنا تراي زلو مالسي زي اوتيزم ديو ADHD دلو سب بيتسبن تما قلعت انت اكيبكا ناي حبار تاش متقبل سلامنتاي كل هنا ناي حبار كومن نيجر سلازلنا حساب كنا نقسمو مالتي سو بزي ثانك يو لكم تعميل صبوتاش منيرو ثانك يو داني لك تبلو
I know the early كيكون نمبر مس actually مس أحمد إذا حسبنا يو نجار نيرو like up summer كمو ADHD autism زلوا أول زلنا سبات بحنساب كوينا program መደብ ክንገብረሎም I think ሓደ ግዜ you guys need break too maybe hire ጌርና ፕሮፌሽናላት hire ጌርና ንዖም ዘዘናግዖም ሰባት ጌርና ከምኡ መደብ ኣሎ just early ስለ ዝኾነ ኢና announce የገበርናዮ በሃንሳብ ብዙሕ ነገር ክንቅይር ኢና just ተስፋታትና ጥራሕ ክስታይ ንግበሮ and I think that's it thank you so much ቀኒልና
thank you I'll close
yes good night
دعان حضروا
يلا
thank you
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for your quality time. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Yeah, appreciate it. دعان حضروا. Bye.
Thank you.